Sean. Hi, Casey and Rob. Susie's just dialing in. And we are kicking off a 15th birthday bash. Let me see if this works. You hear that? Can you hear the applause? Does it pick up on the microphone? No. Oh, my sound effects. That's because I'm doing a little different. That's all right. That was roaring applause is what I had there. And what we're going to do for 4 hours is we're just going to sit here and talk about how wonderful I am. That's just 4 hours of that. No, we're not. No, we're not. This idea kind of came from, and this is kind of hopefully the first nugget that I'm sharing. This idea, 2 nuggets actually. I saw one of my colleagues do this a couple years ago, and I thought, well, that's kind of fun. You know, it's just kind of a fun way to celebrate, to bring some of your clients and community together. That looks like fun. And I put it squarely in the parking lot. In the parking lot. The parking lot is something that is a good idea that you may want to implement into your business at some point, but it's not something you're going to do right now. So there's a little nugget, reminder that we have to say no to things and we have to put things in the parking lot, more focus on fewer things. The other thing that came out of this, and the reason we're doing this is at the, and Bailey, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but either at the end of last year or at the very start of this year, if you went into Bailey and I's calendar, you would see a full day of Remodelers on the Rise 2023 planning. We did that in December, yeah? And as we were going through that, we were laying out the different events, this idea popped up and said, all right, let's do a 15-year kind of birthday bash extravaganza. So that is also another takeaway. This probably wouldn't have happened if we hadn't kind of laid out our year, kind of planned it, going into your calendar, perhaps even right now, and scheduling a half day, 2 half days, something in December, early December, mid-December, to start to lay out and plan the following year is just a really good best practice. So you're already getting a little bit of a taste of kind of what I'm wanting to do here. We'll have some fun. I do expect a little bit of participation. Sean Canada is the first one in the chat box. He just wrote congrats in all caps and a bunch of exclamation marks. I like that. I'm going to need some of that fodder in that chat as we go. We'll have times to unmute as well. But really the key part of this is sharing some good tidbits as we go. And then every half hour, I've got a new guest that I'm going to kind of interview. So there's going to be some fun and just an ongoing amount of value that we're going to be delivering. That's kind of the basics of it. Wonderful. And 15 years goes by fast. We used to have a good full head of hair. Our daughter Piper is our daughter Piper is 15. So I'll tell kind of the full story. During the 1:30 time clock, Eastern Standard Time, kind of the full story of how I started my business. But we were pregnant with Piper at the time, and now she's in driver's training. And is just a beautiful young lady. And 15 years goes by quite quick. This is exciting. This is fun. And thank you to everybody that's kind of dialing in here. Susie, hello, Sarah, Kimberly, Randy, Anthony, Sean, a lot of friends around here. So we're going to kind of kick things off with a friend and colleague, Josh Nelson with Nelson Builders. Since my applause thing didn't work, I have to do this manually. Oh yeah, Josh Nelson. Josh is in beautiful Holland, Michigan. Say hello, Josh.
Hey, everybody. Congratulations, Kyle. 15 years. Impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So the way we've got it kind of structured is during this first half hour, I'm going to keep to the stinking clock. Once like 12:28 rolls around, and be like, Josh, that was great. I know you had some other value, but you're done. And then I'm going to go to Bailey and say, Bailey, aren't we giving away a $100 Amazon card? Literally every half hour. Oh, there's going to be some of my hard-earned money flying out of this office. So that gives you incentive to kind of hang around. If you want to turn your videos on, I kind of like to be able to see folks too. But each half hour, so Josh's half hour is just kind of talking about financials. The next one, we're going to talk about marketing. The next one, we're going to talk about sales process. So kind of going around to these key areas of your remodeling business. And we're starting with financials. And as I was planning this out, I thought, one, it would just be fun to chat with Josh. And two, of all the things that kind of Josh has implemented over the last 8 years that him and I have been working together, I would say his implementation and improvement when it comes to financials was just kind of night and day. So Josh, that's why I wanted to invite you on. I think Bailey said, what did she tell you that you need to do? You need to introduce yourself and then share how you got connected with Kyle and maybe something random that you've learned about Kyle or a memory You were thinking of how you're going to roast me, and nothing came to mind because there's nothing roastable. But go ahead and introduce yourself. Remind us how we got connected, and then let's talk a little bit about financials if we could.
Okay, so I'm Josh with Nelson Builders. Like you said, we're in Michigan, here in Holland on the west side of the state there. Been at it 22 years now, but it wasn't until about 8 years ago. I had been looking for quite a long time to connect with a coach. I knew I needed help because I didn't know my numbers very well. I didn't have great processes. I had started on my own. It was just me swinging a hammer and doing the books at night, and knew there had to be a better way. So I actually ran into Kyle at a Home Builders. One of the.
I was racking my head. Chicago remodeling show.
So that was the second time.
Oh, okay.
We never really made a great connection at the Grand Rapids Home Builders, but I was there for one of the training classes.
Gotcha.
That you were speaking at. So, and the funny thing about Kyle, he's toned down. He's changed a lot over the years that I've known you. When you were speaking, I remember the first time the vein was coming out of your forehead. You looked like a Baptist preacher. So you were pretty intense, but you've toned it back over the years.
I mean, I grew up Methodist. We were Baptist for about 2 years. Now I'm Presbyterian, so it's probably some
coming out of you.
Yeah, there you go. And before I talk financials, I just have to do this, even though Josh is probably like, you don't have to show that. Josh has worked really hard on his financials over the years, and he's learned how to make money, and he has saved money, and he just built a beautiful building that he's sitting in. You can see part of it in his office. And this was one of those, I'm going to save and save and save for many years, and then I'm going to build this beautiful building. And now his remodeling company is hosted in this, and it's just a gorgeous building. Where's that statue, by the way? When's the statue coming?
I'm not sure if that's going to come or not.
Oh man, because you are a what generation builder? Fifth generation builder, and one of the ideas that he has is kind of a father-son statue here that is to honor his dad, who kind of taught him the craft, which is very cool. Yeah. It'll happen. We haven't talked about that in a while. Oh, it's going to happen, Josh. Let's not throw that. It's too cool to do.
My wife is pumping the brakes on it.
Fair enough. I don't know if any of you have quoted any like life-size statues, but they're pretty expensive. So that's part of the reason, maybe pumping the brakes. Yeah. Good. So Josh, thinking of financials, what if you were to point to, if we were just kind of to spend a little bit of time going through maybe 2 or 3, Jenna says it looks great, Josh. Nancy says the showroom is gorgeous. There's also a table in the conference room. And I'm like, well, this table looks cool, Josh. This is cool. And then he said, well, what kind of tree was it?
A red oak.
A red oak tree. Susie, heads up, there's a cat on your shoulder, just so you know, or there's a snake of some sort. A red oak, and they took down the red oak off the property, and then they turned some of that wood into this beautiful conference table, which I just thought was really cool. And just as a reminder, like that is a really cool thing. Keep trying to find things to keep things interesting and fun and exciting and new. I think sometimes we get in a rut of kind of doing the same projects, suggesting and designing kind of the same thing. Keep thinking through, keeping it fresh. Anyways, all right. So Josh, when you think of a couple of the key things that happened as far as turning from, I'm kind of a carpenter with a job and not really making much, and where's the money at, to becoming profitable, what comes to your mind? Me starting with one of them, and we'll go through a few of them.
The biggest key factor for me was understanding markup, and really I needed permission. I always felt guilty about charging somebody too much money. That was a big struggle for me at the beginning, that I thought I can't charge that. And somehow in my head, I thought that wouldn't be fair. But
recording in progress.
With some coaching and even hearing it from other remodelers that have been there, done that, like, no, I can do this. And I wouldn't have been able to be sitting in this room. I'd still be sitting in the bonus room above my garage, operating out of my house like I did for the first 15 years.
Yep. Yeah. And the idea of, I think sometimes, yes, it's the knowledge of what I need to charge, but what you're getting at there is, yes, the clarity of, okay, that makes sense. The numbers are now explaining why when I have a 20% markup with some slippage, I don't have any money left over. Like that, you start to understand and have clarity on that. But so much of what we charge and how we charge has to do with just our confidence in what's happening between our two ears. And maybe for all of you listening, maybe this is a good time to interject. Maybe we need to raise our markup 1%. Maybe just consider it. Carry on, Josh. So you went from where to from what were you doing, and was it just kind of a consistent kind of increase in it?
Yeah, so it was a slow growth. I started with a 10% markup, and we're at 67 right now.
Oh yes,
We took it back from 72. The market around here got a little soft, and so I decided, all right, maybe I can pull it back a little bit. But gone are the days of 30 or 20%.
Yeah, no doubt.
You can't operate a business that way.
So understanding the markup and margin, starting to charge more for your work, those were keys. What else, when you think of financial turnaround, come to mind of key things that happen?
A wise man once told me, what gets measured gets improved. So job costing, right? And understanding my numbers. How much money did I make or lose on any particular project, even to the line items of plumbing, electrical, drywall, etc. Where did we hit on those numbers? And to look at those on a job-by-job basis, we do that now. Not only does it help us improve our bottom line, but it also helps to hold our team accountable. When our crew hits those numbers for the hours that we allocate for that particular project, they get rewarded and pretty handsomely. Every 6 months, we give out a pretty substantial team bonus. So one in July, we just wrapped up that one, and then one right before Christmas. So it really helps us to support our team better. It helps to motivate them. Not that they're motivated by money only, but it certainly helps when they know that what they're doing is measured. It helps keep us all focused. And at the end of the month, you got more in the bucket.
Love it. So since you're the first guest I have here, I had a thought of how I wanted this to go, but I'm kind of getting my balance here. Part of what this is not just like talking, but it's kind of celebrating a little bit. Nobody's and put in the chat. I would love, since especially some of you are smart Alex, I know some of you, start putting some random questions you might have for me, since this is a birthday bash. Maybe there's a random question. Maybe there's something that'll make me blush. Maybe there's something that will just be funny. Feel free to brainstorm that as we go. Andy, I feel like you got something up your sleeve for that. So just think through that a little bit. But kind of what we're going to do throughout this is, whether you hang on just for 45 minutes or you hang on for the whole thing, anytime I do any kind of training, or any kind of event like this, or any kind of recording, it's always kind of thinking there's got to be some takeaways here. I already challenged you guys. Do you need to change your markup? How's that looking? Josh is saying job costing. A big key to this is job costing. We already talked about the parking lot. Is there something that you have in your active list that you need to put in the parking lot? We already talked about, I already encouraged you guys to do some annual planning. Did you actually go in? It's already August 23rd. Did you go into December, or make a note to do that, of putting a little half day or a full day of planning for our 2024 and inviting the people that you want to invite to that? So we're just going to have a consistent flow of takeaways like that. Cool. So Josh, job costing is something that you can see when I started to look at that more seriously, consistently, created a system to be able to watch it. That was very, very key to the numbers improving. And what you said, what gets measured gets improved.
Yeah.
Good. What's another one that you would point to that had made a difference?
The long-term projection. So setting budgets, and then knowing that I have so much to spend on marketing this year, or for us, we built the building, finished it up last year at Thanksgiving, but there was a section that was unfinished. Well, based on projections for the next year, do we have enough money to build it out? Our team is growing. And so now we're starting to build out the last 5 offices. So being able to make capital improvements or planning for the next salesman's vehicle or whatever it is, right? We all want to retire. So it can, when you think about your budgets and am I hitting those budgets? So that helps to plan for the long term, which really gets me excited.
Yeah. One thing I love with clients is going from, and you were one of them, of how does this P&L work? Cost of goods sold, gross, right? Early on, when you haven't studied numbers, just understanding the basics of the P&L. And you're one of them. And I've got a bunch of other clients that are like this, where once I see that my client is more excited than I am about their P&L, and they're pulling it up and explaining it to me of how this is going, how we're going to hire an office manager. This is where I'm putting them. They're down in overhead expenses, Once I see that, I'm like, yes, because now you've really taken ownership and responsibility of your numbers. And I remember you kind of going through a transition of that where I'm like, oh, you're starting to like this, don't you? Yeah, I used to hate these things. I used to hate these numbers. They were so confusing. Now I just love them. I want to see them. I want to understand them. Where you're going there of a business budget. One of the big keys to your business continuing to improve was really dialing in the business budget. And for the capital improvements you're talking about, but it's also been very key for you to do that so that you can confidently make some of these next hires. The office manager was a big one. Even going from working out of your house to your first office that you were renting, budgeting for that, planning for that. You've done that over the years, each and every year.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. So some good reminders there. What's anything you said you 5P'd, proper preparation prevents poor performance. What else did you write down on that there sheet of paper, Josh?
Well, that sums up what I had. You asked me for 3, I wrote 4.
I asked you for 3. Good. So this is also kind of what I was thinking is kind of saying, all right, we got 10, 11 minutes here. Does anybody have any questions for Josh? And or when we think about, and we're just in this little half hour of talking about financials, what else is kind of on your guys' mind, or what else has been very integral for you when it comes to improving the financial side of your businesses? And you can type it in, but I wouldn't mind maybe 1 or 2 of you unmuting as well. Oh, and we got some questions that are seated in here. I like that. What's something else that you guys have when it comes to having improved your financials over the years, or something that you're really focused on right now improving? And it's a regular Zoom call, so you can just unmute, or you can type it in.
I know for me, Kyle, my cost of goods sold was huge, top of mind.
Cost of goods sold?
Oh yeah, that's been I've had my accountant help me pull some stuff up that's in, below the line and put it above the line to help create clarity on what is this job actually costing to produce. So we've really gotten into the weeds in it, but it's really given us so much clarity to know, am I making money doing this type of a project or not? So it helps us to even iterate, do I want to do a bathroom or would I rather do a kitchen? Yeah.
It's almost that level, you're playing at that level where it's like, all right, we got to understand markup and margin. That's some high school math, that's some this and that. Then we get into some college level math of going, okay, now we got a business budget, this and that. And now you're getting into a little bit more graduate level stuff. We're able to, it's kind of the game of business. There's always more to kind of dig into and study. And that's a great one of, all right, now that we're watching our job costing, let's analyze all of these job costs and realize these projects are delivering a much higher gross profit, or we are just built to do these. And then seeing likewise, as much as we can do decks, man, do we just suck wind when we do it, and it eats into our gross profit.
Right.
Somebody else on mute. Financial related thing. See, some people are like, I was just planning on dialing in and not actually participating. Now you're asking me to participate and stuff. What's 1 or 2 other things of, man, we think of financials, here are a couple other things that really move the needle for me.
Hey Kyle, it's Brian. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. And
you're
oh, I'm hearing some echo.
I'm hearing some echoing. Go ahead.
Sorry about. Can you hear me now? We're good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just comment on work in progress accounting. Until I learned that, I didn't know what I was doing. And when I normally talk to a contractor that's not using it, I never understand how they understand their numbers without doing that. I'd love to have you comment on that.
Excellent. And I'm gonna mute you back because it was kind of reverberating. I bet you Bailey's gonna put a link in the chat box to the Remodelers on the Rise episode that Brian and I did, and Steve Nash did, right? I think Steve was with us. Steve Nash, not the Hall of Fame basketball player, but the wonderful remodeler, Steve Nash. Brian, what you're talking about there, again, it's a little bit of, high school level, and then, college level, and that work in progress, that WIP side of things is kind of getting into a little bit more advanced. And I'd say, as I've matured as a business coach over these 15 years, it has become more and more something that I realize, like you said, it's really important. I mean, the basic concept of it, we all can wrap our head around looking at a profit and loss statement and going, well, look at all that profit at the bottom. This is amazing. That's even better than what I kind of expected. It's almost more than what's even in my bank account. That's interesting. I guess I'm doing great. But the first question one would ask in that is, wait a minute, do I have a bunch of deposit money in the revenue up there that I don't have any expenses against yet? And then all of a sudden you kind of come off of the high of, I'm a stinking amazing business person, and realize, there's maybe some more wrestling I have to do with these numbers. So what Brian's getting at is, to once a month, I'm looking at Anthony Boyd. You started doing this a couple of years ago when you started working with online accounting. Karen and her team is doing a once a month WIP report, work in progress. How much revenue have we collected? How many expenses do we have that we've already paid? How many expenses do we have still coming up dollar-wise? What percent? It'll spit out a percentage as far as what percentage you're complete on the project. That's kind of the simple, basic aspect of it. You can watch the podcast that we did for more details, but you take all of your open projects, those 10 projects, and it's going to give you a number that says you have overbilled. Ideally, it's going to be overbilled. You have overbilled $60,000. And we're going to make an adjustment in our once a month adjustment in our QuickBooks to make our profit and loss statement more accurate. So that's kind of the basics of it. And for a lot of you, it's something maybe you've heard of, something that is a little confusing when you start to look at it. But once you kind of understand the concept of it and figure out how to enter in the numbers, it is a very helpful way to understand your numbers even more clearly. Cool. Rocking and rolling. Cool. Josh, what else were you expecting out of this little half-hour slot?
Well,
or is it everything you had hoped for and more?
Huh? I won't invite that.
Say that again.
I said I was afraid you might roast me, but
I would not dream of it. There's nothing too much to roast Josh with. He did just hire a salesperson. I have not met the salesperson, and Josh and I had a meeting yesterday at 9:30 a.m. and up popped Zoom, and I'm like, who is this guy? Oh, that's the new salesperson. Because Josh was too important to show up on time for my meeting with him yesterday. No, something like that. Yeah. And I would talk a little smack, but then he brought in how old is the little baby?
Evelyn's a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Yeah.
Time flies. I swear you guys had that baby like 6 months ago. And he brings in this little 1.5-year-old sweetheart. Oh, there she is. My goodness. There she is. So I couldn't really be mad at him yesterday when he brought her in. And there's babies that are ugly. I mean, let's be real. There's babies, you see it. Sometimes you see a baby and you're like, it's not a really cute baby. You wouldn't say that, but that baby is stinking adorable. That baby's cuter than my kids were. Anthony, you have your hand up.
What can you expect?
That is true. Anthony, you had your hand up.
But a question for Josh. I was curious how you talked about going from 10% up to 72 back to 67. How quickly did you make, and how big of jumps did you make in your markup as you did that? And how did you experience potential feedback or fears that you were too expensive as you did it?
Think of a bell curve. It was not a linear path. It took me a while to really start getting the train moving. Your reputation precedes you. So my
I'll have it
poor
set up to that,
reputation
yeah.
in the community was that I was pretty inexpensive. It's funny even how past clients come back to you and go, whoa, why is it so expensive now? Well, we're charging a little differently now, right? And we had to, in a sense, unfortunately shed some of our past clients because we were really just working for labor. You know, we weren't making a profit. We weren't running a company. I was just hiring myself out as a carpenter.
Yeah, you had a lot of head trash around that.
Oh, lots of head trash. So it took a while for me to change my reputation in the community and to change the thinking between my 2 ears. So when I first started with Kyle, I was at 6 and 4. I was like 6% overhead and 4% profit, which, yes, everybody, you can laugh out loud. It is that funny. It is that bad. That's where I came from. So I'm glad I'm not there anymore. But it took me a while to get traction. And then as I joined in the Remodel Circle group, rubbing shoulders with other professionals who had been in the business longer than me, telling me, you can do this and you need to, and here's why. It was like, oh, yes, I should. And wow, big changes, big changes. More than just the financial, but in the confidence level between my 2 ears.
And the amount in the bank account.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that too. Josh, that was wonderful. Everybody give Josh a little round of applause. Oh, look at all those people clapping. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Brian, nicely, Brian's driving, so I think he just went like that, which was safe, My kids are to the age now where they critique my driving. I'm like, yeah, I drive with my niece sometimes. Why don't you leave me alone, Annie? Anyways, I saw Brian driving. So that was wonderful. If you can put, I'll probably do this most of the time. If you can, there's two things happening. Bailey is about to pick one of the people that are here to win $100 Amazon gift card. Bailey, how are you doing that? You're doing like a random number generator?
Like a random number generator. I'm
Okay.
just numbering the people.
And it's just whoever's
In the order
showing up
they're there.
in your list of participants. So
Yeah.
you go ahead and do that. Do you want to share your screen so you show the random number generator so they know we're not cheating?
So they know we're not cheating. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, they're probably gonna be, whoa, why didn't I win? So while you're doing that, if you guys could type in the chat box, what is a takeaway you had from our first little half hour? What's a little takeaway, a little reminder, a little something from this first half hour? I would love for some of you to type that in.
All right, Kyle, I'm gonna need like a drum roll or something.
Well, I have my sound. Tell me if the sound effects work.
You have to like hold it up to the microphone.
Did it pick that
I'm
up or
just
not?
gonna have to like
I don't understand.
bang on your desk or something.
Bingo, bingo. Number 5.
Number 5. Okay. I have to stop the screen share to see who number 5 is. Number 5 is iPhone user. That's the only person on here without a name.
All right, here's the deal. The person that's dialed in on the iPhone needs to unmute and tell me who they are in the next 20 seconds, or we're picking another person because we can't tell who that person is.
I'm on an iPhone, but I thought my name was Sam.
Yeah, Michaela, nice
Your name is
try,
set.
but you have your name next to it. It was it was worth a try. iPhone user.
I think it's take 2.
Hey, it hasn't been 20 seconds. This is a lot. Bailey, give this person a chance.
Well, it's 12:31. We got a tight ship.
Oh, yeah, I do see Scott Blair over there. He's waiting to share some. Scott, where's your boy? Where's your boy Peter? All right, iPhone user. Thank you so much for dialing in, but you're no longer the winner. Okay, this is exciting, folks. Number 9.
Martin, you are our Amazon gift card winner.
Martin L. Martin's like, well, this is. Martin, did you just unmute to say thank you? Oh, I see that he's unmuted. Martin, what are you going to do with your $100 Amazon gift card? Go ahead and type it in there. And we got some takeaways. Charge more markup quicker. Know your numbers. Going to watch the whip session. Jim said experience is important in raising rates. Also having good reviews, good processes. all of those allow you to raise your rates. That's a good point of, we're kind of needing to improve a lot of things at once, not just sheer change our markup. It's a good point. And Andy said, understand your numbers has a direct correlation to building a successful remodeling company. Wonderful. We're off to a good start. I don't have to pee yet. I was worried about the whole pee situation. Like, how am I supposed to do 4 hours consecutively if I have to pee? Bailey's like, you can't take a break. We said we're going to do 4 hours straight. So I'm going strong. All right.
Told you to train.
Yeah, exactly. Good. So we are moving to our 12:30 to 1 o'clock section of things. Now, Scott Blair, I see you there. Oh, there's your business partner. I like to it's Peter and Scott. So it's Peter Rainey and Scott Blair. And their business is Rainey Blair Remodeling. And I sometimes like to call it Blair Rainey Remodeling, just to kind of shake it up a little bit. Well, all right. So let me hang on. Our audio from you guys is a little quiet. Try to unmute again and say that again, Peter. Uh-oh. We've got a little audio difficulty, like it's not picking you up.
Having a technical mishap.
Scott, go ahead and talk. And if you're like really close to there, let me just see if it works or not. We might have to call an audible and do like a different link. Speak again, Scott. Okay. All right. You guys work on that. You might need to call in and keep the video on. That could be an option.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right.
Yes, that's much better. Peter, what were you saying about the Blair Rainey?
A lot of people think our name is Randy Blair. There's one person, Randy Blair.
Or it's Rainey and Blair, or any other thing you want to mess up.
How did you guys decide to put Rainey before the Blair on the business name? Did you like flip a coin or what?
Oh, you saved the best for last.
There you have it, folks. There you have it. So that was pretty good. Michaela just put a laughing emoji. She thought that was pretty clever. So we're into the next section with related to kind of marketing is where we're going to go next. The instructions that you guys received from Bailey has a saying, kind of introduce you guys, and then maybe how we connected, maybe something fun about fun that you remember in our interactions before. And before you guys introduce yourselves, I will have to say, I've been embracing more and more kind of my business name, like Remodeler on the Rise. Some of my content over the last 6 months, I've been like, hey, if you want to be a remodeler on the rise, or this is part of being a remodeler on the rise, I'm kind of playing with that a little bit. And I was going to let you guys know, when I think of, all right, who's like a quintessential remodeler on the rise? Some people come to mind, but you gentlemen come to my mind. The speed at which Peter and Scott have gone from, all right, we're getting this thing going, we're delivering value to our clients, we're delivering pretty projects, but man, we got to figure out the pricing side. We got to figure out the sales process side, charging for design and development, figuring out, how we streamline the production, implementing technology, the speed at which you guys have implemented. I've been doing this, you may have heard, for 15 years. You may have heard that. I have not seen, you guys are the fastest I've seen to go from like here to here of just all of that implementation. So I wanted to give you guys some kudos on that, because you are truly a remodeler on the rise. And once you guys introduce yourselves, how we connected, and let's talk a little bit about how you guys have approached the marketing side.
Well, hopefully we're still on the rise and we haven't arrived.
You may have peaked. Did you hear? I do have to share that quick story. It was actually Bailey's younger brother, Johnny Boy. He's good friends with my son, and he goes, Mr. Hine, do you think you've peaked? You think you've kind of reached your peak? And I said, dude, I'm in my prime, Johnny Boy. I'm in my prime. He goes, well, once you've peaked, you should change your business to Remodelers on the Fall. Just a doofusy teenage boy thing. So you guys are not peaked. You guys are not Remodelers on the Fall. You guys are still Remodelers on the Rise.
All right, good. Glad to hear it. Yep.
Introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Peter Rainey.
Oh, Scott Blair. Together.
We are.
Oh, you weren't going to do that with me?
Oh yeah, okay. Retake.
No, so we're based out of Roswell. We're a residential remodeler, really focus on whole homes and additions, and we've really geared our pricing to what Michael Anschel and that capacity-based thing is over the past couple of years.
This little guy?
Yep. Cope. So we focus on those larger, more complex projects.
Yeah, you guys have embraced kind of the cost of project execution, that side of things. If you guys go to Rainy Blair, you can kind of see their website there. Wonderful. How did we get connected originally?
Well, I was following some of your content. You're doing like some podcast stuff and email blasts, things like that. And probably, I don't know, about a year or so I was following you.
Yeah.
I was like, Scott, we got to hire this guy.
Yeah, I might have been a little skeptical.
Yeah.
So I think you and Peter sold me.
We were like your slowest closing client. I'm not sure. You told me at one point you're like, these guys are not going to sign. They're just wasting time.
I didn't realize it was Scott though. I didn't know he was the culprit. I've always approached the sales process of like, if they haven't said no, just keep going. I think it's the same for a lot of you guys. I think some people have this approach of like, if I'm not just going to keep touching base with them. Like if they want to do it, they want to do it. As long as you not keep getting a no and you still feel like there's potential there, I feel like it's time well spent to just do a little follow-up every, month or two. So I think that's what I did for you guys until eventually Scott's like, all right, fine.
Yeah, we just
Maybe
coaxed
warm it
along.
down.
Yeah, warm down.
Yeah,
Did the
exactly.
one coaching, and at the time it seemed like a lot of money, and it probably was for us, and not that it isn't now, but it's just one of those things where it's like we probably don't really have the money to spend, but we'll earn it back real quick.
Yeah, and we did. Cool. And then is there a fun memory or a fun factoid that you have picked up about me that was part of your prep?
Yeah, I was going to say you're taller and better looking in person than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what you coached me to say?
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Very nice. Somebody asked earlier how tall I was. And we've got those questions. We'll get into those. I am 6 foot, but I'm not 6'1". That's how tall I am. There you have it. Cool. So marketing, when you guys think of marketing with Rainy Blair, if I were just to throw just a big old softball thing, how do you guys view your marketing? What have you done related to your marketing? I kind of picked this one for you guys because you guys are focused a lot around your branding, around your reputation. You talked about we're catering towards a higher end type client, and we need everything we're doing to really represent that. So if I kind of created that as a foundation, when you guys think of marketing, share some of your best practices, things you've learned, things you've implemented with the group.
Yeah, I mean that's that you definitely hit it. Like we've really tried to focus on the brand and kind of what we want to represent, and really, I don't know, there's a whole bunch there, but I think the one thing we've always tried to stay away from and run towards is we want people to look at our website, our branding, our logo, our vans, our job site signs, and see that's quality. We don't even say we do quality work, because everybody does quality work. They say it, they whatever. So we really wanted to make sure people saw like a premium thing. And then you got to deliver it too. That's part of the marketing experience as well. You got to deliver what you're doing, because, and I don't know, we're actually going through a consolidation right now with another company, and we've been talking about like the Ritz-Carlton, right, and that kind of experience, and it's all tied into marketing, right? Because like you say Ritz-Carlton, and immediately you're thinking like, oh, this white glove service, and you're taking care of everything, and this, that, and the other, and for example, the guy we're consolidating with, he has clients who work with him 3, 4, and 5 times. I mean, think about that in our industry. That's the ultimate marketing, right? Where you have clients doing 5 projects with you. That's incredible.
Yep. So it's interesting. I think a lot of times when we think marketing, we're like, well, yeah, I'm focusing on Google reviews. We need our website to be performing this and that. But you're approaching a little bit more from the brand and everything they're seeing. Unpack that a little bit more. Like, how have you guys approached that? What are some of the key aspects of that, would you say?
It probably started with our logo, really having like an elevated logo. So we initially had the hammers, the hammers crossed like that or whatever. Nothing against that. People have that. It's a cool looking logo.
Oh, great. 3 people have now left because you've insulted them. Appreciate that so much.
Hey, it's got to speak the truth.
We have a good marketing guy if you need him.
Oh, so I mean, I don't want to get in the weeds about it, but like when the guy redid our logo, he showed us other brands that I never heard of, right? These French brands and these really fancy high-end brands. And then he showed our logo next to their logo. And you looked at our logo and you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And then so that's part of his like the like subconscious of a buyer and the buyers that we want to go after, right? They're attracted to these other brands.
Hmm.
So our logo has to match kind of the same look and feel and texture of that.
Yeah, we didn't get a ton into the psychology of it, but trying to figure out who our buyer is and who do we really want to go after is important. So we tried to gear it more towards the wife, who makes more of the decisions, and it appeals to her because she's going to make the decisions at the end of the day anyway.
I'm just kind of taking a little peek at things on here. Gotcha. And then it goes with, your guys' apparel. You're logoed up really well. It goes with your job site signs. I'm assuming it goes with any, anything you got going with vehicles. I just stood up and grabbed this. This was this is probably an older version now, right? But this is done in a way that it's what they're talking about. When we think of marketing, when we think about the type of ideal client that we're trying to attract, and we have to realize that good marketing, it attracts the ideal client and it repels the non-ideal client. And even so much as looking at this right here of seeing kind of the finish and seeing some of the range, this is attracting that maybe more of an ideal client. It's repelling a non-ideal client. Just the overall feel does that. But this does that too. This handout that you guys, had kind of professionally designed, it's got a lot of just what is on your website. It's got kind of your promise. It's got a lot of the content you already have, but just a really strong leave behind when you're meeting with a client. That's building some know, like, and trust. That's building some more of your brand, right?
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Very nice. So what aspect of your marketing is working the best for you guys? Or even if you went into a little bit more tactics at all.
Yeah, I'd say we're getting like a ton of Google leads. Leads originated from Google, right? You never know exactly how they got to you because they might have heard about you and then they put whatever. But we don't advertise with Google. We've never spent money with Google, but we have put a lot of effort into Google Business Profile. It's changed names a few times. I can't remember the latest, but that's like the freest thing you can ever do in marketing. Just go in there and keep yourself updated.
Yep.
Post a couple pictures on a regular basis, once a month, once a week, whatever you can do. That's been good. But it's never one thing. It's always the combination of multiple things. So it's, it could be parts of the economy, parts of the town we're in. Like we want to be very recognized and very seen. We have the showroom, we got some road frontage. It's just tried to build little by little, but
yeah.
The Google,
but even that aspect of the showroom, I showed Josh's showroom earlier, very similar. You guys have invested heavily in there. Your boy Paul McManus, you guys' boy Paul McManus. I saw him log in here about 5 minutes ago. He listened for a couple minutes and then he left.
Already.
So I would like you to text him when you're done and be like, "What? We were talking and you decided that you didn't like what you heard."
He might have hammers in his logo. I don't know.
Yeah, he's probably a Hammer logo guy. There you go. Okay. So there's that was just even that focus of what you just shared related to branding and how everything combines for that. I think there's some really strong reminders and good things for people to think about related to that. I want to pivot just a little bit. And I think another really strong key for you guys has just been really embracing what I kind of call 5 powerful words when you're talking to a prospect. This is how we work. This is how we work. This is our process. I feel like that was something that you guys went from, we kind of have a process to having a very defined process, whether it's certainly internally defined process, but from a marketing standpoint of step by step, here is what to expect in our design and development process. Speak to that a little bit and how that has played a factor in, I think, marketing and sales success for you guys.
Yeah, it's getting better. I'm actually actively working on the latest iteration of that. And we've gone through the good, better, best. We've gone through a lot of different things. And every step we've tried to always say how things were going to work. I think our latest one combined, so it's part of the consolidation, and it's interesting because the guy we're combining with, he's got 30 years experience, right? We're younger, and we're very tech savvy. So we're combining his personal touches with our tech stuff. And part of his personal touch is he has 3 binders that we'll go through with our clients at our second visit. So after we've done our home visit, and this is all part of marketing. I know it's technically sales maybe, but all works together. But he has 3 binders, one that the client leaves with, one that talks about the design process, how we're going to get to your design, and the third one, the production, how we're going to build your project. So it's interesting for us because we were always like, oh, it's on a computer and we can email stuff, and it's, just showing a bunch of fancy, job trend, builder trend screens. And I've gone through this presentation a few times, and it's like, wow, like paper has real power. Flipping through actual, like, this is how we're going to do it. This is an example of your schedule. This is a daily log. Now, do we print daily logs out? No, we don't. But showing like this is tactile, this is real, this is the amount of effort. And then you look at these binders stacked up, it's like this is a lot of effort to produce a project. And this is all like the pretty stuff. This isn't the nitty-gritty, all the daily things that we do every day. So that is the latest iteration. And I'd love to put kind of a thing together and share that, to show kind of the steps for how that's going to work.
I would love that. And when you say consolidation, what do you guys do? Is that's with a coach that's kind of looking at your process and just trying to streamline it more?
I call it a merger, or call it, so we're essentially merging with another business.
Oh,
similar size.
gotcha.
Their whole business has been predicated on creative design. So not to side cart the whole thing here, but he doesn't view design as most people maybe do, as like, this is just a pain to get through before we can build. It's saying, hey, no, let's identify the problems, the issues in the current space. Let's identify those. Let's design something, probably be over budget, but we can cut back in design. And the way it's presented is very digestible to say, hey, your kitchen's this, your living room's this, your mudroom's this. And so it weaves through that very clearly and concisely. And we're very excited about how it's going to boost our marketing and our sales.
Gotcha. Well, that's a big deal, gentlemen.
Yeah.
What do you mean, like a law firm, Rainey Blair and Johnson, or something like that? No.
Yeah, just add more names.
There's no and. Maybe Randy.
Rainey Blair Johnson.
Randy.
We've been watching Suits lately. We're through the first season of Suits. I know Suits been out forever, but my wife and I have been watching that lately. Mike got caught, by the way, at the end of season 1.
I've watched the whole thing. Yeah.
Jessica knows. Jessica knows.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen next. Rhonda says she loves Suits.
Suits is a good show. Yeah.
Yeah. Bailey said, tell us about the logoed coats you gave your trade partners. Talk about branding, talking about that side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we love swag. So our team, going back real quick, one of our PMs created a whole slideshow of what swag they wanted for our team. So our whole team picked what they wanted from the swag presentation. And from that, we said, hey, who's our best trade partners? Would they like any of this stuff? Because our demo guy comes in pretty frequently. He always wants a hat. He always wants a shirt. He wants something else. So we were looking at what could we give to him. So we got some Dickies jackets with our logo on it, and they love them.
There you have it. Now I feel bad. I haven't put my foot in my mouth, but now I just ruined it for Andy. Andy goes, thanks for the spoiler, Kyle. Sorry about that. I just got excited about it because we've been watching that. Still watch it. It'll still surprise you.
Watching Andy.
It'll still surprise you.
Okay. Gets caught, but it's all good. He gets out of it.
Okay, you're doing more spoilers though. Just we've already screwed it up once. Excellent. So what I'm hearing there in the second part related to our process is the clearer that is, and what you were describing there. What were the 3 areas? This and this in production. What were the 3 kind of binders?
So the first part of is the design development process, how we develop your plans, your project, your specifications. And the second piece is how we build your project. And then the third binder is a binder that they leave with. What I've taken from this from a marketing perspective is don't abandon the old ways. Paper works, like direct human relationship is very valuable. And as much technology as we've implemented in our business, it's been good and helpful, but you can't abandon the stuff that still
Mm.
works.
Especially if you're during the sales process of like you're describing there, even though during, a lot of that final binder, you might print some of that out, but a lot of that's going to be digital. But for them and the prospect to see it and feel it, that's a good reminder of especially as our society moves faster and faster and more technology, sometimes going and having something in print and something they can touch and hold and see that's not on an iPad is helpful.
Yeah, but also
Very
allows
cool.
the salesperson, whoever's doing that, to flow through the presentation more efficiently. Some parts aren't hitting, you just flip on through. You hit this point and just keep going. Or, oh, you want to go back and talk about that? Yeah, okay, let's go back to page 2 and talk about that.
Yep. Love it. So share a couple. I see a couple questions. We'll get to those in a second. Share a couple takeaways from what Scott and Peter have been sharing there. One of mine is this reminder that everything is marketing. All these aspects that make up our brand, take that seriously. Your job site sign, this, that, and the other. It's either supporting, neutral, or disrupting. It's supporting the brand and the feel that you're wanting. It's kind of neutral, not really helping or hurting, or it's kind of disrupting. It's not at the level. You heard a couple things of we're trying to elevate kind of everything that we're doing, whether it started with the logo and everything that we put out, because we're catering towards this is the full market. We're catering towards this top 10%. This top 8%, and they're taking that very seriously. So that's something for each of you to kind of consider, and also just really thinking through who is my ideal client. And when I look at my website, when I look at my branding, is that those two things kind of in alignment? You guys can share a couple other takeaways, and then Peter and Scott, what else from a marketing standpoint might you want to mention that you haven't mentioned already that has been kind of key for you guys?
I mean, I'm just going to reiterate that I think everything from a branding or marketing perspective, as our company, we try and keep on the same or at the same level. So going back to our vans, we want them to look and feel a specific way. And we may spend a little money, like on the book you showed, to have a marketing person help us put that together. But the investment up front on getting everything consistent across all of our different areas of marketing is really important. Because you don't want to, print something off real quick and hand it to them, and it's not the same with everything else you're doing.
Yeah. I listened to most of what you said, but I was kind of distracted because I wanted to pull this up. This is you're hearing Scott Blair speaking. Number 14 there on the screen, the kicker there. That is the Scott Blair who was just speaking. This is Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Oh, the snap goes directly to the kicker. We're throwing it out to the right. Bam. That's a touchdown. That's a touchdown.
Receiver did all the work.
Pretty much. I mean, there's Scott. He's celebrating. He's feeling really good about this.
I myself,
feeling real good.
With the holder. There's the holder. They're celebrating.
Yeah. For the next 4 weeks, I'm sure every day, every hour of practice, they had to, you guys probably walked into the locker room puffing your chest out. 21-0 versus Clemson, the Fighting Bulldogs of Georgia Tech, or whatever you guys are called. What do you guys call them?
Gosh, you totally butchered that, Kyle.
What are you guys? The Bulldogs? The
Georgia Bulldogs are the arch
Harpoons? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
The Georgia Tech nerds.
Nerds?
Can you, there's probably a follow-up video to that of the crying Clemson fan. You can find that one real quick.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And then there's that other dance thing that you did in between. I'll find that one too. Very good. So was that Anthony Boyd wants to know if that's DT?
That was, yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. There was. Susie said, Kyle, since this segment is on marketing, what % of budget do you recommend is spent on marketing? If we were talking in amongst a group of window siding roofing, we're talking some solid percentages. We're talking, I don't know, 6, 7, 8%. You better be cranking and getting a lot of leads flying through. When we're working with remodeling companies, doing kitchens, baths, additions, if you're doing 2% of your revenue towards marketing, you're doing a lot more than most of your peers. 2, 3, 4%, that would tell me you are taking marketing very seriously and investing a good amount of money in it. As I look at, 100 of the last remodelers I work with, it's usually 0.7%, 1%, 1.2%, maybe. A lot of times I'm of the mindset of, I think you could be budgeting a little bit more towards marketing, my friends. It also depends on growth. You know, if you are looking to kind of keep a similar 1.5 million this year and you've been in business for 20 plus years, chances are your reputation and repeat and referrals are going to get you there. If you're looking to grow, or if you're newer in business, you don't have a real solid client deck, you're going to need to invest more in marketing. So that's kind of my couple thoughts on that, Susie.
Probably what?
2.5 or 3. Probably.
Yeah, around
2.5, 3% for you guys. Good. And then Bailey said, what's your favorite marketing related thing you've done in your 15 years of business?
It was a question for you.
That was a question for me.
There.
Well, I have been in business for 15 years. Most businesses, you know, collapse in the first 3 years. Not mine. Not mine. I'll share more when I share my story, but I knew that I was onto something when my wife stopped saying, you know, wasn't it just easier and less stressful when you just had a regular job, Kyle? She didn't really.
Fun.
Yeah. Once she
Does
stopped
she
asking.
sound like that?
No.
Is this why she didn't want to?
No, she is a wonderful, no, she's working. She's a wonderful musician with a beautiful voice, but I probably represented her whininess a little much. But once she stopped saying that, I was like, I think I might be onto something. She hasn't said that in like 3 months. Okay. What was my favorite marketing related thing? I did do, I don't think I have it in here, but I was pretty hot on lumpy mail for a while, lumpy mail, sending something in the mail to folks who, you know, it's got 100% open rate. You set a little box in the mail, 100% of the time it's going to get opened. And I mailed out a few of them. One of my clients did this as well. I'll share his story because it's very applicable. Mailed out this little trash can, smaller than this, just like that big. It's all metal. It's got a little lid on it, and had a sheet of paper. I don't want to crumple that one up. See it. Printed stuff on it. Took a crumpled sheet of paper, stuck it in the trash bin. Put it in a box. This is Bob Burnside, Fireside Home Construction in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He mailed it to Michael Clement, who is a high-end architect in Ann Arbor. And the letter kind of said, "Don't throw this opportunity away." Get it? Trash can, get it? And kind of below there is like, hey, you know, Michael, we've connected before a time or two, seen you on a job site, saw you at the HBA meeting. I would love to just sit down, buy a cup of coffee. Thought I'd send something kind of funny like this just to get your attention. Let me know. Next day, ring, there's Michael Clement calling Bob Burnside. Bob, that was pretty funny, I gotta admit. Yeah, let's set up a time to talk. And literally that relationship, that architect builder relationship has led to millions of dollars. I'm not even exaggerating, led to millions of dollars over the years. So that idea of lumpy mail is kind of maybe one of the more fun marketing related things.
Sending real things. It wasn't an email.
Yeah. See that tangible thing that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And then I need a couple takeaways from our marketing session. Couple takeaways that those of you who have been listening to this have as a result of what
two books that I recommend for people.
Yeah, hit us with that.
Marcus Sheridan, that's the one I always they ask you answer. And then another one is a pretty quick, easy read, Lobster on a Cheese Plate by Mark Harari.
Yep.
That's another good one.
Yeah, they ask you answer is one that you talked about for quite a while. And
yeah, that's a gem. That's been around for a minute.
Yeah,
what was
excellent.
the other one?
Lobster on a Cheese Plate.
Yeah, and I'll say from anything we've done is not super creative, like a trash can with a piece of paper in it or anything.
No, crumpled up piece of paper. He literally had to do this, Scott. I mean, can you imagine?
Hopefully I had good handwriting. But it's removing obstacles to make things easier. So gifts to clients, we've worked with an outside company to make sure that's more consistent. That was very inconsistent in the past. Reviews, we use Nice Job now, which pings the client, so we're not always having to follow up. It's trying to remove some of that, but not get rid of the tangible, like still pick up the phone to call them, send letters. That
nice job, little online reputation software.
Yep.
You like it a lot?
Yeah, does well.
Okay, there's another little tip, folks. Anthony said I need to work on consistent marketing throughout all aspects of the business, kind of that branding thought. And Andy said, I guess I need to add in printed items to our marketing budget. Was at $0 for the year. So we're making Andy think about that.
The good thing about marketing and remodeling, if you're doing anything, you're doing more than the competition.
Yeah. The bar is set a little low, right?
And I've been on NARI meetings in Atlanta, which is a fairly big market, and the guys are bragging, "Oh, I don't do any marketing." Like, why would you brag about that? I mean, it's fine if you don't need to. I'm not saying some people need to, but like boasting that you don't spend any money on marketing.
Yeah.
For business,
Not a badge of honor.
Apple spends a lot of money on marketing. They seem to have a lot of customers.
It's true. Wonderful. Well, with that note of you attacking your fellow NARI members and praising Apple, which is also controversial sometimes.
Start and end.
What's that?
People with the hammers in their logos.
Yeah, we lost 2 people from the hammer thing, but I thought what you guys shared was very helpful. Good reminders on the marketing front, and mission accomplished with our little half-hour slot here. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
You betcha. You betcha. So I think it's time for me to give away some of my hard-earned money with an Amazon gift card. This part's fun.
Let's go.
Uh-oh.
Number 6.
Oh, single digits. Who's number 6?
Okay. Jenna Zengel.
Jenna Zango. We're gonna buy some diapers
Congratulations.
for the new baby on Amazon.
Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome. I mean,
I
Bailey
will
picked
take
your
money
numbers,
from
so
you.
that is true. Somebody asked earlier about Bailey. Who asked about Bailey? Anthony Boyd, you asked, why don't you pay Bailey more? She deserves it. And Jenna liked that. I think on a VIP club call the other day, somebody guilted me into like sending her 200
I was going to
bucks
say
or
this
something.
could work out very well for me. I got a couple $100 via Venmo last time they started heckling you.
That is true. And then for your viewing pleasure, Scott just put the crying Clemson. Was it Clemson Bulldogs? What's their name? Clemson Cheetahs? Oh, time.
I gotta leave. This is just unacceptable.
Actually, you know who I'm bringing on next is former kind of Michigan-based sports guy, but now big Georgia Bulldog guy. Tony Dixon, you want to share your love for the Georgia Bulldogs and why you love them so much?
Go Bulldogs. Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I became a huge Bulldog fan about a year ago when I started writing them checks. So my daughter's on the equestrian team there. She's in her sophomore year now. So we're Bulldogs inherited fans, but I got to tell you, I love that place. It's a lot of fun.
Real quick, not to take away from you, Kyle. My sister rode on the equestrian team at Georgia.
Oh, really?
I wore a UGA equestrian national championship shirt into the Georgia Tech locker room and got thrown in the trash can. not the shirt, me.
Literally. That's funny.
Congratulations to your daughter. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, good stuff. A lot of fun. We just got her moved back down there last week, so she's already in practice, and it's been plenty hot for him down there.
Yeah, Tony, when you were talking about how she has access to all the athletic facilities and whatnot, it just kind of chuckles of like her being in line and the same food. You got 350-pound Georgia linemen with our little equestrian right next to her.
Yeah.
Just a couple athletes hanging out.
It's great for us when we go down there because we take her and her teammates out to dinner and stuff. And football players are always lurking around the equestrian girls, it seems. So get to meet a lot of those guys, and they are huge.
There you have
a lot of them are giant.
There you have it. Bailey wants me to give away a few more things. Bailey, why don't you pull up the little giveaway thing? Pick somebody, and then I'll pick what they're getting. Let's do 2 of them.
Okay. First one is number 5.
Why is it all
Dylan
single
Drummer.
digits? Dylan Drummer. Dylan already has a hat. Dylan's getting that Yeti. Boy, Dylan
doesn't have a Yeti.
He does not have a Yeti. One of these Yeti?
Yeah.
Dylan,
Here I am.
Dylan, you're getting
Remodelers on the
some-
Rise Yeti.
Yes, you're getting Remodelers on the Rise Yeti. Congratulations. Bailey,
Love
better
it.
write that down because I won't remember it. And then who else is getting stuff then?
And the
Thank you.
second is
You're welcome.
Rob Bartoshevitz.
Rob Bartoshevitz. He may not have a sweet little hat. So Rob, you're getting one of these. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it to you before you head to Italy.
And he's not here. It's just
Oh,
me.
that's Linda.
Oh, Linda.
Linda's getting some swag.
Right?
Either you're. What's that, Linda?
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're mighty welcome. All right. Well, that was fun. All right. We are into section number 3. This is related to the sales process. And I have my friend and client, Tony Dixon, Premier Building and Remodeling, another Michigander, over in the Kalamazoo area. Would you consider you'd say Kalamazoo area, even though it's technically Galesburg. And I had worked with the one and only Ken Simon at Premier for a number of years. Tony joined the team and joined as kind of onto the ownership partnership aspect of it a few years back. So I've gotten to know Tony through that. Tony, why don't you share just a little bit of your background, because it's pretty interesting how you got involved in the industry. And then I had kind of tagged you during this time related to the sales process side, some of the things that you have really embraced that's helped you on that front. So introduce yourself, and then if you saw the notes, if you have any heckling you'd like to do of me or how we got to connect, feel free. I kind of feel like you might have something up your sleeve, knowing you. And then we'll get into the sales process side.
Yeah, so thanks. Tony Dixon with Premier Building, as Kyle said. Kyle, first of all, I'd like to wish you a happy 15.
Thank you.
That's pretty impressive. You must have started when you were 40. So nice work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I came into this as a second career. At 40 years old, I was a public safety officer, a police officer, a firefighter in the city of Kalamazoo. Very involved with my career there. SWAT team for 11 years, and on one of the training events, I ruptured my Achilles tendon at work. The process to repair that actually caused paralysis in my right leg, my right calf, and my foot. So it went from being the breacher on the SWAT team to not be able to walk. Was quite a transition in life. The city took very good care of me. Fast forward my pension, and I retired at 40 years old. Kind of weird when you go from hyperactive SWAT guy to retired. But what that did is it gave me a lot of time to build a soul search, what I wanted to do. Ken Simon was a friend of mine, and I had considered getting my builder's license and dabbling in the industry just on my own. I picked his brain about his business. He had started in the early 90s, and lo and behold, he shows up at my house a couple of days later, recruits me in to come and work with him, and we became great friends. And fast forward 3 years later, business partners. So that's actually 7 years ago that we partnered, and we've been going strong ever since. We've grown the business together, purchased a building, an office front together, created a business center there together, and then launched another company in 2018 called Executive Home Repair, which is a service division. We'll call handyman for you guys, because I hate that word, but service division, doing smaller projects out of necessity for our clients more than anything. Kyle was there for that process, and obviously met Kyle when I came on board with Kenny 10 years ago. Very new to the game, but what was unique was listening to you business people talk and express challenges that you have that were answered together as a team. And for me, coming out of law enforcement, a lot of the structure that happens there, I guess I had success in bringing that to our business, and we certainly have felt that. The whole idea too is, just to have that process. It's
Yep.
to have those steps. So Kyle and I have a long-standing relationship of picking on each other pretty much nonstop, kind of like brotherly love, I would have to say. Other than the fact I haven't really got to beat him up yet, but other than that, it's good.
Love it. Love it. So I wrote down a couple other things. I want to talk about the sales process, share some of the things that you've implemented that's made a major impact there. And then a couple other things, maybe talking about executive home repair and just unpacking that a little bit, I think might be interesting for some folks. And then the other thing I jotted down, just so you know, is I think the law enforcement background, one of the things that, and you probably bring this up in the sales process, the understanding human nature, understanding how to kind of read people, that background of you doing that for a career and then marrying that with working with homeowners and reading the room, reading and understanding where they're coming from, seeing their body language has been a very interesting kind of, marriage between those two worlds. So talk about the sales process, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about a couple of those other things too. What's made a big impact in improving your sales process?
Well, certainly the addition of executive home repair, and I share this with our roundtable group often. We went from the 15 to 20 solid clients a year to up to 150 with those smaller projects, which became very important to build systems so that we weren't chasing our tail on these smaller calls that some would say are not worth taking. But when you find the systems to put those into the process, to streamline it, to make it easier, it certainly can be lucrative. And we're feeling that success and the stability of that smaller service division. It doesn't really cave to the economy like some of the bigger projects do. So we've hung our hat there a little bit, and that's been helpful. Our process, Kyle introduced Kenny to it, the beginning phases of what that looked like when I first started working with Kenny. Back in those days, nobody took a design retainer to put together an estimate or a proposal for a project. And really when I came into it and listening to Kyle and educating myself, I realized how important it was to gather all that information and data before you ever signed on the line with a client. I don't like using allowances. I don't like guesswork. Everything that we do, we give the subcontractors the opportunity to come into the job site and see it prior to giving us their numbers. And what that does is—
do they have time for that though, Tony?
They do for us. Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? They don't have time not to, Kyle. It is such a savings to them and a blessing to them to be able to come in and look at those projects and have a plan before they start. You have to force feed it to them a little bit at first, but once they sign on and they get on board with your process, it makes them more successful too, and it makes their job easier and it flows. That process from day one of signing a design agreement with a client. We use a two-step design agreement. Our first step involves the actual design work, the computer work. We charge a fee for that, and I kind of set that fee. It's not carved in stone, but it's based on what I feel is going to be how much work's going to be involved in that initial design work. And once we have that, the other thing that allows me to do is in those initial conversations I can have with the client, I can draw out what their actual budget is with that conversation, because if they do not have the money to invest, then I'm not going to spend their money on the design. So we weed a lot of that out right there in that initial. And if they do move on, then they're serious and that they're good clients. And I would say we're probably 90+% rate of once we started design, signing with a client moving forward, because usually day one I will have that budget number. Yeah,
and it's something that you've not shied away from. I think everybody does it in a little bit different flavor. I would say the majority of the projects that you guys are all looking at, by the time especially if you go out and see the project, the majority of the time you guys have kind of a range in your head. And I think, Tony, one thing that you've leaned on, you've got the cost versus value report that you lean into heavy. You've got some lines down of, I don't want you guys to go through design and development and invest those dollars, if this project doesn't make sense. And I think that idea of moving that moment of truth, you're matter of fact about it, but you take that pretty serious of wording it in a way that they feel like you're doing them a favor, but moving up that moment of truth earlier in the process has been important.
A prime example this morning, Kyle, I went to a consult. I got into conversations of what do you want to invest in your project? She came in at $150,000. My ballpark gut instinct is it's a $500,000 project. And I got that right out there in front of her. And I said, I don't want to take you on a walk down a road spending thousands of dollars on design work if it's not in your want to invest in this project. Well, lo and behold, guess what? Tony, we want to do this project, but it makes it comfortable because I know where they're at realistically, and it's not guessing work. I think that's so big in the sales process to get that out there ahead of time so that you don't have not only that, it takes the stress off of you. Like you're not worried about having to present to a client and it's $150,000 more than what you originally talked to them about. You should be very upfront and open about where that's going, where it's at, and if you feel it exceeding where you have conversed with them about, you better get that conversation out there in front of them. So
don't wait
time or theirs.
Yeah, you don't want to wait on that. And so you just said, I don't want to take you down this road. That was kind of a phrase that you used. It's probably not the first time you've used that phrase. If you guys have kind of a favorite phrase that you use or one that comes to mind, this is what I always say with it. You go ahead and type that in. But Tony, do you have a few other phrases that you use often early in the sales process that come to mind?
I got one from Kenny that I use all the time is I deliver sticker shock every day. We understand that where it's going. And getting that conversation out there early on, I don't know, a lot of times it just flows, but like you said, I had a career of talking. I had a career of disappointing people in bigger ways than, the fact that you can't do your remodel project. So it's very easy for me to have those conversations with people. I'm okay with having the big shoulders for them to lean on if they need to. But it's so important in your business. It's not just for them, it's for the time that it frees up for me to be able to focus on the clients that are going to be the ones that move forward, that are going to be the good clients to work with. And I think to the bottom, I tell clients all the time when I'm in that initial meeting, I said, I want you to understand that I'm interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me, and how important that is that they know that, that we're looking for the right fit for us, and we're looking for the right fit for them. So it's an important thing in that initial, for sure.
It's another good line. And practicing those lines so they're comfortable. Man, I got too many things I want to ask you about. So we got to touch on sales process a little bit more. And then I have something kind of a little pivot that I want to ask about that I think would be valuable for people. But what else in the sales? So you got kind of a 2-step on the design and development. Just give us the Cliff Notes version of that first.
Yep. The original design deposit covers the architectural work, the design work, the CAD drawings. Once we've approved that with the client, we move to phase 2, which is usually equal amount to the design dollars. And what that does is help with the selection process with that client. We take them down that selection road, because again, before I bring the team out to look at the project, I want to know what it is that we're installing. I want to know what it is we're building. And I think if you put the time into the front end to answer those questions, 2 things happen there. One, you have those questions answered. So when you bring the team out there, the electrician knows what he's installing, the plumber knows where we're putting what. And the other thing too is that it also gives you the opportunity to make your markup on those products, and not just using an allowance and hey, we gave you $5 a square foot, but it came in at $15 a square foot. It's hard to make money on that additional $10 an hour once you've already given it away, or that $10 per square foot are given away. So that's big in our process. We often will give that back to the client should they move forward. We'll roll it back to the job, and I usually let them know that if you move forward with us, we will credit that second phase back to your job. But that gives us something to take care of our subs, providing that they don't move forward. And then the second part is another signed little agreement plus another check. Yep. And we've moved everything to DocuSign. So even when I go out to the field, unless it's a client that just doesn't have the capability, most everybody now utilizes that. Same with all of our billing. When we do the design agreement, we bill it right away, and then we can start scheduling right then. We're not waiting for that stuff to come back. We're not making another trip out there to have them sign or have them come in. So it's fillable, and we email it off and it's done. And I had 2 come in this morning that are designs on new projects, and they paid the deposit right online, and we were ready to move. Like, it's just keeps that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I would argue for you, and knowing kind of the process you guys have been through, you having design and development resources around you has been very, very key to moving it forward. And I think that is a pain point or a bottleneck for a lot of folks. There was a day where Tony was doing the chief architect drawings. There was a day where he was running point on walking people through selections and doing a lot more of the estimating. And talk about that a little bit, of the resources around you. Maybe share just 1 or 2 that has been critical there. And then it's going to piggyback off of that, but you've made some odd hires. You've made some hires that turned into your kind of design selections, estimating help, that's now turned in and been promoted to a project manager that had no background in remodeling. And I think that's a story that I think just kind of sharing that example is helpful for people to hear about. So the resources, what were the key pieces and the key resources that really allowed you to get in front of the design development instead of feeling constantly like you're behind on it?
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head, Kyle. I was wearing so many hats, and I'm sure we've all been down that road early on in the business. I realized that I couldn't keep up with it. And as the marketing started to work, and the developing clients was happening, it puts you in a bad position if you can't keep up with it, or if you're dragging the design process out so long that clients are falling away, right? They're losing their passion at that point. Actually, Josh Nelson was one of the builders in our world that I reached out to, and I asked him what his process was. And at that time, he was outsourcing his design work to somebody locally. And I went to a home builder association and I asked, and ironically enough, the gal that runs our HBA had a girlfriend that she went to college with that did design work, and we connected. And I've been outsourcing all the design work to her now. And what's nice about that is it keeps the process moving because she jumps right in. She gets on the design work. We have that happen. I knew right away I couldn't keep up with it all. It takes a certain mind to be a designer. When you sit down to that chief architect drawing, you have to be focused in that design. You can't just do it for a few minutes here, a few minutes there. And it's hard to have that time to dedicate to that when you're also trying to build a business and hire the right people. And that's where we've been really successful. You talk about the team that we have. Our first hire was ironically, a lifelong friend, a longtime friend. Her and her husband were mine and my wife's friends for a long time. We were happened to be out to dinner one night, and she mentioned that her kids are grown and she had a degree in teaching, and that she wanted to get back into the world of work, and not to come work with us for sure, but she just wanted me to keep my ears open. So we had lunch the next day, and she was hired the day after that, because I knew that she had the ability to be.
No, you did. You did the background check and disc assessment and had 3 people interview. You did all those best practices.
I had a great gut feeling.
Oh.
And that's what we work off of a lot around here at Premier Building and Remodeling. But I also have 20 years of experience in
reading guts,
reading people and having that impression. So she was our first really office hire that we started putting into a role of helping more in the design selection process. At the same time that we brought her on board, we had hired our first executive home repair employee, who was a licensed builder himself, a young man who was very talented, still is very talented, and we're blessed to have him. He just hit his 5-year mark. So he doesn't know it yet, but we bought him tickets to the Michigan Ohio State game, and we're putting him up at Weber's in Ann Arbor for the night. So we're excited about giving him that on
Thanksgiving
Friday.
weekend. The old maize and blue going to go back to back against Ohio State.
So brought Kim on. She knocked it out of the park. She was my right hand. She learned a lot about the business in the 3 years that she worked with us. At the same time, I had another girl who I had worked with as a rookie in Battle Creek Police Department, and her name is Sarah. And Sarah was approaching her 25-year mark, which kind of blew my mind because she always seemed like a young lady to me, to be at retirement age at 45 years old. And obviously she wanted to work, but she wanted to get away from the law enforcement career. And she had been courting us for 3 years before she retired. I didn't know for sure what her role was going to be, but I knew that she had managed 7 guys on a dope unit for the last 4 years of her career as their sergeant, and had the organizational skills and the management skills and the people skills to be successful at whatever she did. So it was a question that I threw out to Kyle in our roundtable group, and I didn't know that if it was going to be a project manager position or what it was going to be, but I knew that it was a good hire, and that we would find a role for her. So in that, what that did was when we brought her on board, Kim, who had been with us 3 years and was already helping run projects, moved into the full-time project management position, and Sarah took over the office.
So that aspect of it, and I think that was the punchline that I wanted everybody to hear is, you've got a former teacher and mom, stay-at-home mom, and you have a former kind of office assistant, executive assistant, type of role within a police department and a dope unit that have turned into an excellent project manager and an excellent facilitator of all of the selections and estimating design work. And you hit it of like she had the organizational, the management, and the people skills. So when we think of our hires, when we think of some of these key pieces, especially on the office and or the production management, the project management side of things, Tony has been very successful with 2 very odd hires when it comes to those positions. And when you think about it, and that was the other thing you were kind of mentioning there is, what percent of the project manager's role is more on the organization management and people management and client management side of things? It's a big percentage. A little bit of it, yes, it's very helpful to have some really solid construction experience, but I think sometimes we get that flipped around. We think it's 80% construction experience, 20% the other stuff, and it's the other way around, especially when you have other team members that come with the construction experience.
Yeah, and I can tell you that our crews, our teams, our specialties absolutely love working with Kim. And she's, in the last 2 years of doing this, she's also obtained a ton of knowledge on that construction side of things. She learned through trial by fire, right? And asking me a lot of questions throughout that process. But she has a ton of respect from her peers in the building world, and they make sure that her projects are taken care of. And it's that she's got the gift for gab, but she's also a very good person, right? And they can read that.
Yep.
And I give them the support that they need too. Like, if I need to talk to somebody, I will. We'll go down that road if we need to, but it doesn't really happen. So we're very fortunate.
Excellent. So what I've heard so far is a little bit of that, moving up the moment of truth, having frank discussions around budgets, kind of being on their side of wanting to make sure that you're not wasting their time. You're interviewing them. So everybody to continue to think about how well am I doing with some of that initial budget talk and initial know, like, and trust talk on the sales process side. We shared some examples there. Taking a just step back and looking at our current sales process when it comes to the design and development phase. What improvements do you think you need to consider or look at? How can you continue to streamline it? And also what I was kind of digging into, Tony, on there was, it wasn't until you finally put some resources around you that you finally got in front of things on the sales process side. Time kills deals. And when you are the person trying to juggle all these different balls and do the design work, it doesn't work very well. Anybody resonate with that? Right? It doesn't work very well. So continuing to evaluate that, and how do I find some resources to help me? In your case, the first step was finding an outside local designer that could come out with you and then run with the design work. There's a lot of different ways to approach that. Very good. And if I could, if I were that topic I brought up of that marriage between all of your reading people and body language and this and that. Do you have anything that comes to mind for that of, how I've applied that, or how others can kind of learn to improve how they do that? Anything come to mind for you on that, of how we can better read and understand people or connect with people? What comes to your mind for that?
Well, we hear it time and time again, and Kyle, like I said, you and I have known each other almost 10 years now, and watched you grow. And you, I'm sure you've began utilizing this, where early on in your business, you weren't so much, because you felt like you had to entertain every client. If there's something in your gut, when you have that meeting with that client that tells you this is going to be a lot of work, or this is going to be more work than it's worth, listen to your gut. Ask some key questions to those people that put them, not necessarily on their heels, but put them if they're talking about a bad experience with other builders, they had to fire this person off the job site, in that courting session of what you have with that new client, listen for those things. Those are keys. And very often you'll find it wasn't the other builder that was the problem. It was the person you're talking to that was the problem. Mm-hmm. And I try very hard to eliminate those problems before we ever get to them. I don't care if it's $1 million project, if it costs me $1.1 million to do it, in stress, in headaches, and the other issues that come along with it, and holding up the process, holding up our progress. It's just not worth it. One of my best friends just built a $1.2 million house right down the road from my house, and he wanted us to bid it. And I said, I love you, but we cannot work together. I knew him, I know him well enough to know that he wants to in the middle of everything that's going on, and it's just not our process. It's not going to work for us. So, to have that ability, listen to your gut. That's the biggest thing right there. Is most everybody that's I've listened to talk about problem clients will say, I knew that this was going to be a problem. If you find yourself saying, I feel like this is going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. So don't ignore that.
Right.
Don't ignore that. Was there anything else, Tony, related to the sales process side that you had thought about before coming live on this little Zoom call that you wanted to share as we kind of wrap up our little half-hour slot here?
The big thing that I actually took from you early on, Kyle, and that you said it directly to me. I think we were in Mount Pleasant in a meeting. Schedule your next appointment, schedule the next event in that sales project while you're at the event you're at.
Yeah.
Don't let it go. Don't let it go on the back burner. If it's a good client that you're going to be working with anyway, you should have already established that, but you need to keep that process rolling. It's on us as the lead, as the salesperson on the front end of that. And that's my role now is to develop those projects on the front end. That initial 5% is as important in my eyes as the final 5%. The final 5% leaves them with the taste in their mouth, right? Whether it's good or bad.
Yep.
But we can never get to the taste in their mouth if we can't do our first 5%. So have your processes clean and keep it rolling. And I have, again, a great team, and she does not let me not keep it rolling. So she's on the appointments as soon as the design agreements come in, we're scheduling for the designer to go in, and then selections right after that. So all that process is important.
Self-imposed deadlines.
Exactly.
Love it. Wonderful. If you guys can type into the chat box, what was a reminder or a takeaway from our little sales process side of things? We're just rolling. We're rolling right along. I think Bailey's about to give away another $100.
And I wanted to know if you bribed Tony to like feed the next topic in perfectly.
The final 5% part.
Yes, that was just fantastic work.
Yes, he did. It's almost like he looked at the agenda. Now, just to drive you bonkers, Bailey, I'm not really going to talk about the final 5% next. If you look at Bailey's disc profile, she's a very high C, high compliance. Bailey likes the agenda, and she likes to follow the agenda, and she likes to know what's coming up next. So it drives her nuts when I'm like, I'm calling an audible. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Drum roll.
Number 16. Who's number 16, Bailey? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Scott Blair.
Scotty Blair, former Georgia
Congratulations,
Tech
you are the
Python kicker.
Proud owner of a $100 Amazon gift card.
All right. Rock and roll. Tony, that was wonderful. I appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you sharing some of your experiences and feedback. You behaved yourself very well.
Thanks. I decided I was gonna.
I would say when the recording
It is your birthday. It is your birthday. So I figured I'd.
I've talked to Bailey 3 or 4 times today, and every time she picks up, she goes, "Happy birthday." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." My wife asked me earlier, she's like, "Is this the actual anniversary?" I'm like, "No, that was like in March." And then I went outside, I went to the mailbox at the office, and some random car honked and like waved at me. And I didn't even recognize the car. So they must have heard it was my birthday. And then on the front porch of the building, there's 5 or 6 companies that are in here. There's a bouquet of flowers that doesn't have anybody's name on it. I assume somebody sent me flowers too, because they heard it was my birthday.
Kind of like the last time you went at golf.
Yeah, you did let me win in golf. It's a nice night. That was a beautiful
birthday. I'm pretty sure.
That's very true. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tony. And we're going to cruise into our 1:30 slot now. Bailey, I feel like this is going nicely, going smoothly. Casey just said, "Love this one." Thanks, Tony. Ooh, I like that. Enjoyed listening to your hiring wins, Jim said. I love that one. But part of this birthday bash is given takeaways and whatnot. But we're these are each little individual podcasts too. But it's been focused on financials and digging into that, and marketing, digging into that, sales process and digging into that. And I feel like it's been kind of very structured and very organized and very somewhat formal up to this point. I feel like
It's been very steady,
and I'm not really ready to like spend 30 minutes like just sitting there doing training. I want to kind of vary it up a little bit. Okay. That's why I was saying I was going to talk.
You haven't heckled people very much yet.
No, it's because
it is your birthday.
Because I've been interviewing people the whole time.
Fair.
We've got a nice little group here. 20. That was the other thing when we started this. I'm like, we had like 60, 65, 70 people that like said, "Yeah, send me the info," but you never know if anybody's going to show up. But we've had like 20, 25 people here. Brian Sebring, I do want to know where you're driving, because I'm pretty sure you have been driving for an hour and a half straight.
Back to Illinois. I'm in Indiana right now. Coming from Tennessee.
Well, that's working out beautifully.
For you. Yeah.
And you got to mute again, because every time you unmute, I hear you clearly, but then whenever I start talking, it starts talking real loud. Well, good. I'm glad you're just able to ride along here. I'm seeing some familiar faces. We got somebody else that just joined us. Okay. So I need 2 people. I need 2 people just to unmute I'm not going on until I get 2 people, so don't be shy. 2 people to unmute and either share, you can ask me a question, or you can share something that you have learned from the Remodelers on the Rise business over the 15 years. Maybe you remember kind of a lesson you learned or something that helped you in your business. I'd love to hear that. And I'd just like 2 people to unmute and do that next. And or you can type a question in the chat box. Don't be shy, my friends.
Hey, Kyle, I'll give you a real quick one.
We just heard from you for 30 minutes, and now you
I know,
want to
but
take
I want to just say how blessed I feel like we all are. And I'm not just tooting your horn, but to have a resource, the pool of people you've put together in this group. When I first came into this, listening to the concerns that the people in our roundtable group had were how do we get business? How do we make the phone ring? How can we stop losing money? And now I feel like, and obviously the economy's been key, but I feel like most of the people that are involved in your world, their bigger problems are how do we weed out the clients that we really don't want to work for? And that's a great testimony to you and your business, and that's as much as you're going to get from me.
I was going to say, you can keep talking now that I know you're talking about that stuff. Yeah. Anthony Boyd, you're listening intently. What's on your mind? A question and or something that you've implemented over the years, or a comment?
Yeah,
or a takeaway you've had so far.
Takeaway. Well, I'm going to go back to what I was going to say originally. So, remodeling is tough. There's ups and downs, and it's just been nice to have a community of people that to bounce stuff off of and get feedback and grow together with. And so, there's a great group of people like Tony was talking about that you were able to ask questions, and that's just really encouraging.
Yeah, it's been your experience too. Remember, you sent me one thing Anthony's done pretty well over the years is send handwritten notes. It's a simple thing. Even what Peter and Scott were talking about earlier of like, man, sometimes that actual printed thing works. Some handwritten notes might be good to send out. But I remember you sent me one a few years ago, and you're like, I was just reviewing the numbers, and my annual overhead is now what my annual sales used to be. And it kind of hits you of like, man, sometimes I think there's a lot of growth, and what we're always looking at is like what's coming up next. And while I'm not here, I'm not there. Just looking in the rear view mirror sometimes reminds you of how far you've come. And I remember when you shared that one, I was like, that is a big difference.
Yeah, job costing has been huge over the last couple of years. You see the cost, the percentage of cost of goods sold was way too high. And so in reviewing it lately, it's been 15-16% less than it used to be. So it's great to see growth.
Yeah, when the cost of goods sold is down 15-16%, that means the gross profit has gone up 15-16%, which leaves more dollars for our overhead expenses, and then leaves more on the net profit side. Wonderful. Jim Zangel, you're coming up next, but just so you guys know, we've got a little 20-minute slot here where we're just going to chat, and I've got a list of little quick hitters that I'm going to hit on. And then Vicki Suter is going to join us, a friend and colleague of mine. She's a fellow business coach from 2 to 2:30. I'm going to share a little bit more of my story at 2:30 to 3, and then we've got a little virtual cocktail hour that we'll have a little fun with. Cool. Jim, did you have something?
I just put something in.
Yeah, we don't want to read. I don't want to read it. I want you to tell me verbally.
Well, I guess we first got involved with Kyle. I guess it's really Connie listened to a couple of your podcasts, and I don't remember which ones they even were, to tell you the truth. But she was impressed, and we were looking for a business coach, and we talked to Kyle. I remember it was between Christmas and New Year's of.
I don't work between Christmas and New Year's anymore.
So,
I know why it was though. I do remember taking that because you're like, we've got budget. There was something like we've got budget money, or we want to use this before the end of the year. I remember you reaching out, and I'm like, well, typically I take between Christmas and New Year's off, but this guy wants to give me money, so I'll take that.
Something along those lines. But anyway, and I don't really even remember exactly. I think it was more the marketing or just processes or something. And that's what we started with. You started with how we work and set up a thing. And we've been using that ever since.
Yeah.
And I think processes just helping us try to work some of those things through and the whole sales to marketing part of it. But then also just helping us try to get Jenna and Patrick in the business, and we're getting them to go to your what do you call them when everybody goes to Ann Arbor?
VIP club.
The VIP club, and working our way through on that. So
yeah, I think for you guys, the first thing go ahead.
No, it's just saying. Go on, you're done.
No, beauty before young guys, or age. I was gonna say age before beauty, but I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that I'm
other way around.
Older than you are, but anyway, but it's been a great experience, and it's helped us improve dramatically over the last couple of years.
For you guys, one of the first things we really dug our teeth into is you had a process that you were taking clients through, but it was all just verbal. Nothing was written down. It's like, well, then we'll do this, and we'll do that. And by taking the process and getting it in writing, this is how we work, and really refining that. And then that allowed you to build your confidence to really start charging for design and development properly. And just gave you guys a lot of confidence to really start to protect your time during the sales process and build value during the sales process. So that's excellent. Yeah. And then this topic of, all right, if you guys are wanting to kind of dial back and you want kind of the next generation to move up, how is that going to work? There's blueprints, there's outlines, but every single one of those situations are different. So getting some clarity on that's kind of been a fun little set of coaching and projects. Excellent. Cool. So go ahead and type in any other questions that you have. I'm going to hit you with some of these quick hitters. There were some questions earlier, weren't there, Bailey? Did Susie and Rhonda have a couple or something?
They did.
What were they?
Susie wanted to know about your team size. And Rhonda wanted to know how old Lucy was.
Lucy, the dog?
I'm assuming.
I'll start with Lucy, the dog.
Lucy, the human.
Rhonda was part of the Queen Bees group back in the day. Queen Bees group, there's 6 or 7 ladies who, many of them were the wife of a husband-wife team. Some of them were just kind of the office manager. And we were doing a roundtable group for a few years. And I think Lucy used to make appearances. I used to bring Lucy to the office and stuff and whatnot. So she knows Lucy. How old is Lucy? I think I have it written down here. I thought the other day, Lucy was 5 in 2021. So that means she's going to be 7 this year. We have good friends of ours that posted a picture of their miniature schnauzer on Facebook a couple months ago. And they said, oh, happy 15th birthday to so-and-so. Now, I'm not a dog person, but Lucy, she's not the greatest dog of all time. She's not the GOAT. She pees on the floor a lot. She poops inside a lot. She spins like crazy. I get all tucked in for the night. My wife and I start watching Suits like we have recently, and then Lucy wants to go outside. She's really obnoxious sometimes. So she's 7, which means, Lord willing, we'll have her for another 7+ years of wonderful Lucy memories. It's kind of mean, wasn't it?
Hey, Kyle, it's Rhonda. I'm here to defend
Rhonda.
Lucy because she can't talk.
Yes, go ahead, Rhonda.
Yeah, she's a dog. She goes to the bathroom on the ground, and that's what she's supposed to do.
I don't know how dogs do it in California, Rhonda, but here in Michigan, they're supposed to pee in the beautiful green grass that I have in the backyard. It's good to hear from you, though. She has a cute dog.
I have one, so.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's it.
I actually have 2, and I have 3 dogs, but I have to defend the schnauzers.
Schnauzers. Okay. I take all of that back. I was just sharing all of that more for humor's sake.
I officially still like you now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then Susie said, curious how large your team is your team. Well, we've got the powerhouse that is Bailey Curtin. Did you just put your hand up to announce who you are?
Me, I'm the team.
She is, well, part of, yes, mostly.
Part of the team.
Mostly.
It's a joke.
She is on payroll, full-time employee. There's 2 of us there. We have Kristen, who is kind of a 1099, and Kristen was on maternity leave, and Bailey realized, wow, Kristen does a lot of things for us. So we have the Remodelers Autopilot program and all of the scheduling of all the social media posts, all of the formatting of the email newsletters. Kristen kind of takes care of us for that, and Bailey last month, much to her chagrin. You powered through though.
Kristen does a lot.
Yes, she does a lot. I have a bookkeeper, Anne, who's kind of local to us and just takes care of all the bookkeeping side. And then I would say my wife is on payroll, mostly for 401k purposes, but she is the VP of operations. In other words, I will come to her when I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this or think like kind of big picture strategy stuff. She usually has some wisdom for me on that. I'll tell you more about that when we get to the story aspect of it. Wonderful. Thank you for those questions. I think a couple of you should post some more questions, but let me get some quick hitters here before our friend Vicky comes at the top of the hour. I was writing down some of the phrases and little coaching tidbits, and I think I'm going to do the old stand-up desk trick. If you don't have a stand-up desk, by the way, I highly recommend it. So a couple quick hitters here. Josh already hit on one of them that I had written down. What gets measured gets improved. What gets measured gets improved. That goes with our marketing results. That goes with our financials. That goes with our sales closing percentages. What are you measuring in your remodeling business? Another way of saying that, what are your key performance indicators, your KPIs? And you can even type it in there for 2027. Hey, Sean B, can you unmute for a second?
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having your video on, because then I can pick on you. Secondly, it's good to see you. I haven't chatted with you in a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while. How's it going?
And thirdly, do you have a takeaway so far from kind of listening in on this and hearing some things? What came to your mind so far?
There's a lot of stuff. I've been trying to work doing a quote at the same time.
I know, and that is perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. What is a Kyle memory from our coaching that we've done in the past?
I mean, obviously the know your numbers, getting good with that. A lot's changed for me since we went through stuff. I started doing a thing where I was doing a warranty line item to make up for markup for materials if people purchased it in other spots. I've since just changed that to 50% markup now instead of 30.
Not messing around anymore. Wait, are you making more money as a result of that, Sean?
Yeah, it's somewhat equal, but it does end up being like $100, maybe $200 more, depending on trade partners end up doing work, because that'll jump it up.
Good. And then I think I've seen that you have fully embraced job tread. It seems like.
Absolutely, yeah.
Your job tread super fan.
Been a game changer, yeah. It's really helped me focus in on like everything's in one spot now. Even though I still estimate in a different program, I just have a way to transfer it over, and all the numbers and everything, like the guys clock in and out, all the material goes in. And I had somebody help me set it up so that it translates into QuickBooks and it's all seamless, and I can just look at the numbers at any point and see where we're at.
Excellent. Are you going to their annual conference in January?
Haven't decided yet.
Breaking news, I'm speaking at it. Be there or be square.
Well, that'll change my mind.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Oh, you said it'll change my mind. I was like, I hope that means he's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Bailey will be there too.
I had fun. It was well worth it. That's actually where I met the person who helped me set up Job Tread into QuickBooks. She did my P&L, and at this point, she's doing like the back end of the books and making sure all the payments are made. But it's like a peace of mind. I don't have to worry about it. I know it's done. She finds every little inconsistency and make sure that
streamlined. Excellent. So thank you for letting me pick on you for a second.
No worries.
Appreciate it. So what gets mad, a couple other quick hitters as we fill out this little slot. Tony mentioned this kind of self-imposed deadlines. Self-imposed deadlines are very powerful. The idea of, well, I'll get back to you early next week. I'll get back to you later this week. Those are bad things for each one of us to say. To end an appointment, maybe we reviewed the design or the initial proposal and we have some revisions. To end that appointment or to end the initial, when you sign the design and development agreement, whatever meeting you have, to set a deadline for the next one and kind of say, let's actually book a meeting for next Tuesday at 2:00. Let's do it via Zoom. Use Zoom more often than maybe you do right now is a very good best practice. And as I was jotting some of these down, I'm like, all right, I've been doing this for 15 years. What are some of the little coaching tidbits that I hear often are helpful to folks? The self-imposed deadlines one comes up quite quick. Cool. Another one is 5P. That has come up a few times. Bailey also just sent me a private message about a bathroom break. See what I just did there? Talking about 5P. Anyone? Oh, I see Vicky's face down there. She's like, well, that was kind of funny, Kyle. Vicky, was that funny?
Well, there's no pee in bathroom, but
I know, but I wasn't going to say like a potty break or pee break, but I figured people would make the connection between 5P and the bathroom. Yes. So 5P, proper preparation prevents poor performance. 5P, that actually originates with the British Army way back in the day. I don't know how long ago, but that's when I've looked that up in the past. It was a military phrase. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I have seen a lot of my clients grab a hold of 5P, talking to their team about it. You know, this project's kickoff would have went a lot smoother, but we did not 5P it. And if you as the leader of the business can say the word 5P and your project manager and your carpenters and folks in the field actually know what you mean, I think that's very powerful for you to have an acronym like that. And it also can be used in a very positive way. You know, this whole meeting went really smoothly because we 5P'd the crap out of this. So now I just said crap. Bathroom. This meeting's going bad.
Getting completely out of control, Kyle.
Yes. So that one's 5P. Another one I jotted down was more focus on fewer things. Man, this has been a drumbeat of mine for the last 12 months. I think partly because I've been focusing on that. But when we think about it, you know, if you have 100% of your work time, however many hours in a given week that is, probably 90% of it is in the business, is doing the sales work, the design work, the estimating work, the project management work, the ordering work, the finance, all of that. 90% of your time is spent in the business doing those things. And if you're doing pretty well, you might have 10% of your time to work on the business. And I think what we do often is in that small amount of time to work on the business, we try to do 5 or 6 different things. And there is something to be said of more focus on fewer things to allow us to make more progress. Taking one thing and getting it 100% implemented, that process, that checklist that you're working on, that improvement to your sales process, whatever that on the business thing is, it is much more results driven, and you're going to get more results when you pick one thing, get it 100% complete instead of having 6 half-finished things. And I'll share 2 more of these little quick hitters. One of them is time kills deals. Time kills deals. That idea, especially, I don't know if it's any worse or different right now as we're sitting in August 2023, but the longer it takes you to go through the design development process to get back to people, time kills deals. How do we reduce our what I call cycle time? How do we reduce that cycle time? How do we tighten that up? So instead of from the time we sign the design development agreement to the time the project is signed and the contract is signed, how do we reduce that? Going back to what gets measured gets improved. Measuring how long it takes us to go from design development to contract is one way to reduce that. Self-imposed deadlines is another way to do that. So all of these kind of tie in together, but time kills deals. Writing that on a little sticky note, putting that on your wall, thinking through how you can reduce your cycle time is something that a lot of remodelers over the last 15 years have found very helpful. Rockin'. And I gave this advice earlier. I'll hit on this last one of next right thing. In remodelers community this morning, one of the gentlemen is having a tough time of things. And I was very pleased when I logged in this morning. He had posted it, must have posted it like 6:30 or something this morning. And by the time I saw it at 8:30, there's already like 13 comments underneath it. And one of the things that I'm kind of most proud of in my 15 years of business is having kind of facilitating a community where people are just nice and helpful instead of mean and belittling. It's just it just doesn't fly in my world. You can't be mean and belittling. And people were just encouraging him. I've been there before. I've experienced that before. I know you're feeling beat up, but you just got to keep put one step in front of the other. Hey, try this, try that. Just a lot of encouragement. And the thing that I wrote, I didn't have much to add because there was already a lot of good ideas. But when we get overwhelmed, when we have too much going on, a lot of times, if we can just identify the next right thing to do, that makes a world of difference. So that's a phrase that I've used a lot in my coaching that people have resonated with, of just trying to figure out, especially when we're overwhelmed, what is the next right thing that we can do. Cool. And Sean said, you've done a fantastic job creating that community. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's it's been something I'm excited about.
I think
So
it's time for, oh,
yes,
sorry.
It is almost time for what? The bio break?
No, another Amazon giveaway.
Yes, it is. We're going to give away some more money. So we've had, who else am I seeing here? Hey, Todd, good to see you. Sean, you're back. Ed, seeing you here. So people have kind of come and gone. Vicky, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. And it's been good. It's been wonderful so far. I've had kind of 3 real specific interviews. We talked to Josh Nelson and went through some financials. We talked to Peter and Scott with Rainey Blair, dug into things related to marketing and branding, talked with Tony Dixon on the sales process. And we just spent this last little bit kind of sharing a few stories and also some quick hitters. We're going to move on to Vicky Suter here in a couple minutes.
But first, you do a bio break.
Yes. So we are going to now. Don't everybody. My concern is everybody's just going to leave, and we've had like more than 20 people the whole time. It's fine to come and go, but not everybody leaves. Stick around.
I'll entertain the people and do an Amazon giveaway.
Oh, good.
You take your little break.
Well, no, let's let everybody take a break because then they won't feel like they're missing the Amazon thing. So we're going to take a couple, let's say 3 minutes. We'll start just after the top of the hour, and before we do. Oh, there's a good idea. We're going to take a 3-minute bio break. And then right when we get back, Bailey's going to pick a winner for a $100 Amazon gift card. Now you ain't going to leave.
Come back.
Yeah, they'll definitely come back. And Vicky is one of the number on here. So she could conceivably win this to go along with the $2,000 I'm paying her to speak for 30 minutes. No, that was a joke. Yeah, I'm glad you're laughing at that. All right. When Bailey gets back, we will begin. If you want to, for those of you who've been hanging out a little bit, could you pull up the chat box real quick? And then where it says type message here. Share something that, you know what, either something you're going to do as a result of something you've heard already during this, or something that, you know, this is kind of the next on the business thing that I'm really focused on. Wouldn't mind seeing what some of you have for that.
Are we ready to give away more money?
We are, yes.
Fantastic. All right, drum roll. 17.
Number 17.
I have to go through and count again.
No, if they already won once, they get, I mean, they can win again, right?
Sarah Gasmundo.
Sarah Gasmundo.
You are the winner.
Sarah, how do you feel? Sarah, how do you feel about that? Would you like to give a victory speech?
I would like to thank my mother, my father, and most of all, Kyle Hunt for the huge transformation in our company.
Oh,
That's working together.
you wouldn't have said that if you didn't have won $100. You're just saying that because you're like, about time I get back some of the money I've been paying you for years. Yeah, very good. Cool. Wonderful. All right. Well, we're Bailey, how's it going so far? If we were to do a mid birthday bash recap and pretend nobody's listening to us.
We normally do like one word open, one word closes. I feel like we need a one word middle.
One word middle. One word on how they're feeling right now. One word on just how they're feeling right now. Right. We got 20 some people on here, but they're pretty quiet in the chat box. You're looking for kind of a one word or maybe even one phrase. How you feeling right now? Could be good, bad, and
Just a little
different.
check-in.
You want a little pulse on the room. All right, let's see what we got. Nancy says motivated, outstanding, appreciative, amazing, excited. I mean, all right. That was a good idea, Bailey.
That was what I wanted. That was perfect.
Feel like, okay, we're invigorated.
Did you change
fabulous.
hats?
Pardon?
Did you change hats during your bathroom break?
Yeah, I know. I 5P'd this, so I thought to myself, I'm going to vary this up. I got this from Hours on the Rise hat. I got this black one. I got this gray one. I'm just kind of keeping things fresh.
I was looking for my hat like that. I couldn't find it. I just have my Lions hat here.
Yeah, keep it fresh. All right, we are officially into our second half here, and we have the. I saw fabulous that Susie just wrote, and I just was like, we have the fabulous Vicky Suter with us. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Kyle. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm 15 today. I'm starting driver's training.
You'll catch up soon.
Yes, eventually. So when Bailey and I were going through, okay, we got Josh, we got and I thought I would just like Vicky to come on and chat. Part of it is we do have your team next to this, so we can talk a bit about that. But part of why I wanted you on here, Vicky, is because it's like there's colleagues. And then there's friends, we got a couple of different like titles that we would use for each other. And I would say we're friends first. We have been, I think you guys have probably experienced this when you have other people that do the same thing that you do. It's just really reassuring sometimes to be like, okay, I'm not the only person that's like experienced this or done that. And then you find somebody that is even wiser and smarter and more experienced than you. And then you're like, oh, I'm really going to pick this person's brain. But Vicky has been very helpful in ways that she is aware of, and small ways and little things and big things, and just helping me be clear with how to build my business and how to approach clients and how to serve clients. And I picked up a lot of coaching tips from her as well. And we just we've talked about real things as well. So we're just friends and colleagues. So I thought, it'd be so much fun to have Vicky on here to just kind of talk about how we know each other, and then to kind of talk around this topic of your team. This is a specialty that Vicky has of how do we manage and lead our team well. So I wanted you to share some of your advice and coaching and tips related to that. But per Bailey's email to you, maybe a little introduction of who you are, and then a little bit of how we know each other. And then let's talk about some of your top tips on leadership and team.
Okay. And how much time? I have 30 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, it's nice to meet everybody virtually. I've been looking at all your names on the board. Kyle, thank you for inviting me to be here.
Dylan just waved at you, by the way.
Pardon me?
Dylan just waved at you.
Thanks, Dylan. So I'm Vicki Suter with Suter Business Builders, and for over 30 years, I've been helping contractors increase the profitability on their bottom line, have more time in the day, and reclaim the joy and fun of what they do again. What does that mean? I chose to work in the construction industry because I think contractors, I used to be married to a painting contractor. That's kind of was my foray into construction. And contractors are some of the smartest people I know, and they rarely give themselves credit for it. And what I love is coaching contractors and working with them on helping them have a greater sense of clarity so they have more confidence that lets them take more powerful actions. It's a blast to help contractors unravel and really reveal for themselves how much they actually do know, and help them put together the pieces of what you already know about building and construction and apply it to your business and your teams. There is a direct correlation between those two. So I've been having fun doing that. I do coaching, consulting, speaking. I'm a trainer. I have a group called the Contractors Collective that's similar to the group that Kyle leads. And yeah, like that.
Ta-da. And you used to live in California. Now you're
I
a
used to live in
Midwesterner.
California. I'm now a Midwesterner. I live in Kansas.
How's that transition been? Do you enjoy? Are you fully embracing the life of and culture of being a Kansas person?
I love the change of seasons. People are very nice. And it's not easy moving halfway across the country when you don't have kids in school and making friends when you work from home.
Yeah.
But it's slowly but surely. I really do love having change of seasons, though. I have to say, I grew up on the East Coast, and so it's kind of fun.
Now, when you said people in Kansas are nice, was that a backhanded slap at what we think of Californians?
No, it's not like Minnesota nice. They genuinely, people are just very gracious and nice, and so I have felt very welcomed.
Wonderful. And then we got to, I didn't mention kind of the formal thing of how we gotten connected, but tell the people how we've gotten to know each other.
We have to know.
Or if you have a fun fact or a fun story about me that you can think of.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. So I would say that we got to know each other, first of all, because we belong to a mastermind group called Construction Consultants Mastermind that Kyle joined. I've been part of the group for several years. Kyle joined, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
And every year we do a retreat. So we kind of get to have this deeper dive learning and growing with each other, which is fun. I would say that fun facts about you, I mean, things that I think connect us is our faith is one of those things that has been a cool part of what I feel is our relationship.
Yep.
And then I would say when I learned that you golf and how much you love golfing was really fun, because I was like, oh, I used to be a golfer and I appreciate that passion. And so it's fun to see how you, you invest time in pursuing your passion. And for a guy who's you have 5 children, right?
4 that I know of.
How many do you have?
4 that I know of, yeah.
Children. They're fairly young kids relative to my children, who are all grown and married and well gone out of the house. And I appreciate that you walk the talk about life-work balance. You work really hard in your business, and you're very dedicated and committed to your wife and your children and being a good, husband and father.
Appreciate
and
that.
Take time. So I admire that you, like I said, walk the talk.
Like that. Well, thank you. Enough about that. Oh, and Rhonda said she was counting Lucy as the 5th. Lucy, the dog, came up earlier, and I was talking about how fond I am of Lucy. So Rhonda's, that was the 5th. Okay. So let's chat a little bit about your best little golden nuggets related to, you're talking to people live here that are running teams and running remodeling businesses. We're also capturing this as a podcast, so we'll have more people listening to it on the podcast as well. When you think, if I were just kind of open it pretty broad of thinking, a frustration and a challenge that everybody that has employees or team members has is leading the team and leading the team well. It can be stressful, it can be challenging, it can be difficult. If I were to just kind of say, talk to us about that topic, where would you lead us on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm doing this series of interviews right now with leaders on the topic of how do you be a good leader and what are the elements of that. And, one of the things that it was interesting listening to you a little bit ago as I came onto the call, our ability to be able to grow our business is very dependent on our ability to grow our team. And a lot of times what I see is that business owners think of their team like, I'm the one that has to do it, and then I have these people who are helping me do it. And I would say, first of all, that mindset will always keep you tied to your business and will tire you out. And I have this thinking about employees that they are no different than us in this regard. We all want to have a sense of contribution, belonging, and mattering. So what does that mean? That means that we shift from having people help us to do something to people actually taking ownership. Now, ownership, responsibility, like, what do those words mean? Like, how do you actually do that? Many years ago, I learned through my own trial and error when I was starting my business and having been in the corporate world for several years and struggling as a leader. And I couldn't figure out how to get it so that I wasn't being a micromanager of people, or how to get people to follow through and do things they said they were going to do. And it was listening to Stephen Covey one day when he started talking about leadership and about employees and what motivates people, that it was like this light went on for me. And I realized the problem was me. It wasn't the people who worked for me. And I started to really investigate and study some of the great thought leaders on the topic of leadership and how do you rise people up to their highest potential as human beings and have them take ownership in a way that lets you and them rise the tide, right? Like really to be able to grow your business, to be able to take your company to the next level and to grow your team to the next level. And I appreciate that there's a lot of people who are facing these days the struggle of finding people with skills or finding people who, stay in a job very long. And I trust me, I get that issue. But I think that especially given that, I think that part of our thinking as leaders needs to shift in that our job is to develop the next generation of this industry. And our job is to help people take ownership at a level of result versus task. So this is where a lot of the work that I do with clients and that I've, in courses I've taught and so on and so forth are really about how do you shift the responsibility of somebody's job to being specific and measurable. So I equate that to if you're building a project, right? You go in, you're doing a remodel for somebody's home. The first thing after you meet with them and you find out everything that's not working, the second thing that you do is you create a schematic, a blueprint, a plan for, what do they want, right? And from that schematic of what do I want, then you look at that result and you look back to where they are now and you go, okay, what's it going to take to get from where they are to where they want to be? The same thing is true for employees, that if you haven't clearly defined the criteria for success and the results that you're after, then what you end up doing is having all these one-off conversations about you need to fix this, you need to change this, you need to fix this. But without a clear outcome, it's kind of like, imagine going onto a project. Homeowner says, I want a new kitchen and I want a new powder room down here. And by the way, would you build us a new deck? And it would be kind of like they hire you, you come in, and instead of creating a blueprint or schematic for what you want, you go in and start tearing stuff out, right? And like you demo it and then you go, okay, now what are we going to do? But that's kind of how we approach manage people. Yeah. Is we go, I know there's this task that needs to be done, but we haven't defined what the result is and where we're headed, then we're going to struggle consistently in getting them to what we know is the standard that we have. And this is tough for us, especially, as business owners. We've been doing this for a lot of years and we've made all the mistakes And you can't you can't build a team based on hoping and wishing that they make all the mistakes and learn from the way you did. We've got to create a blueprint for what's the criteria for success. And so that's where I talk with people about creating position agreements. And I'm going to make a distinction here between job descriptions and position agreements.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yes. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. I've been taking notes. And we also just got a comment from Paul J. McManus. I still use Vicky's position agreements for all my staff. Great system.
Cool. Thanks.
Ooh, that's nice. So we're gonna dig into that here in a second. Which part did I want to go back to? Even early on, what you shared of our ability to grow our business is very tied to our ability to grow the team. And I think a lot of the banner over the top of this is, how do I lead my people in a better way? You were sharing kind of your story of how I was micromanaging. Then I started to study, how do we lead people well? I'm just kind of tracking the step-by-step that you were going to, and where you were going right before the position agreements is we have to be clear with what success looks like for them. How do they kind of keep score? How do they measure if they are doing the job well versus, I don't know, here's your task for today, just do that. Well, you didn't get this one done fast enough. You didn't do that. It's just such a small view of how to lead well. So if I'm tracking where you're going, is the key to doing that, to give them clear results, is to have a clear criteria of success. And it's what you call a position agreement.
Yes.
Perfect. Carry on, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me make the distinction between job description and position agreement. So job descriptions oftentimes are task driven. They're, you're responsible for, handing in your time card on time. You're responsible for, doing carpentry at the standard of our company. You're responsible for taking out the trash. You're responsible for meeting with the homeowner. Like there's just all these tasks that we kind of start with. And I will tell you that this learning came for me when I had hired this woman, Beth, to work for me. I thought she was a perfect fit. And within a couple of months, things started to break down and things weren't working well. There was not a consistent result with her. And I just started doubling down on micromanaging her. And what I had for her was sort of like this task list, this job description that I'd created based on, well, here's all the things I do. Here's what you need to do. And what I realized in that learning was that I needed to give Beth a result that she was managing to versus the task. And so what's the distinction between a result and the task? If somebody is responsible for meeting with the homeowner, you're responsible for meeting with the homeowner every Wednesday and making sure, or once a week, and making sure that they have the most up-to-date schedule and they have a clear idea of where they are financially on the project, and you're addressing any open items with them. That's a very different thing than this open-ended thing of meet with the homeowner. And this goes back, Kyle, to when I hopped on this call that you were talking about having deadlines. And what I find is that one of the greatest ways that we can reduce the overwhelm and the chaos that happens in our head is by having deadlines by when we're going to have things done. Because then it's like, if I know I have to have it done by next Tuesday, then I know that I'm going to get it done by next Tuesday. But if I have it as this open-ended thing, then it just kind of becomes this rolling list of stuff that I have to do. And the same thing is true for your employees. So the more you can look at it, like when you write a contract, then you have a budget, it's specific and it's defined as to what the result is. So the more specific that result can be in a position agreement, the more likely it is that you're going to have that person understand, yes, there are several tasks that will go into doing that, having that meeting. Yes, you have to have that meeting, but what's the result you're after? Well, the result you're after is to make sure that that client is completely informed about scheduled dollars. And, if they have to make choices about change orders or selections, you're having that conversation and you're addressing it. Now that person comes to the meeting prepared completely differently. It's different. I just want to say one thing, please. Because it's different than like I have that conversation with them, but it's kind of like, could you imagine managing a contract with your client that was just based on a conversation and not a written schematic, not a blueprint, not an end result, that would be miserable. And that's one of the reasons why it's miserable with employees. So I think about position agreements just like contracts. Go ahead. Sorry.
Where when you were talking of the one of the examples you gave was meeting the homeowner every week, making sure you have the most up-to-date schedule, any updates on budget and addressing any open items. From a manager standpoint, that is easy for me to be able to measure. It's much more robust than, you're supposed to meet with folks. So part of the specificness of it and how defined it is, it makes it easier to see if we're achieving it. And when we don't have it, I think you're kind of hitting on it, is there's just a lot of vagueness. There's a lot of, well, I'm doing that some of the time. Well, I had that conversation. Yeah, but how did the actual conversation go? Did you touch on these 3 things? It makes it much more difficult when it's not result driven and very clear and measurable. It makes it very hard to manage.
Yep. And you said something earlier, which is exactly what you're touching on, which is if it can't be measured, it can't be managed, not by you and not by them. So if you want people to get better at managing their time, if you want people to be more consistent in producing results, make it measurable. And one of the reasons I call it a position agreement is I look at it just like a contract. It's an agreement between you and them. So when I have a position agreement, there's multi-steps that I have, and I'm happy to share it with you guys about how to write a position agreement, but then implement it where you get agreement, you get signed off on it just like a contract. And then when you have to have a conversation with an employee about they're not performing on their job, there's this contract out here, just like your client is with you and you do with them, right? Where there's this contract that says, well, here's what was included. Here's what wasn't included, right? Here's what you said you were going to do. Here's this, the agreement that we made. So now what's cool about that is that when you start to give people feedback, it's not I like you, I don't like you, you're good, you're bad, you're right, you're wrong. Like it's based on something that's specific and measurable by anybody. Now having those conversations with people becomes a game changer. Now instead of avoiding what I affectionately call the hard conversations, they get way easier when it's, well, we said we were going to do this. And I understand that it's not sort of as mercurial or like just simple as that. Like, but if you can just start setting up a structure, which is the second piece of it. So the first piece is be really clear about what the specific measurable results are. And then the second piece is being consistent in if you have a meeting scheduled every week with that employee, your foreman or your project manager, your estimator, whoever, which hopefully you're having consistent meetings. If you're not, that will help you a lot.
Take away.
Be at the meeting and be there on time. And nobody short of my wife, my dog, my kids, my mother is sick or I'm sick, you don't get to not show up at the meeting. You don't get to schedule something else. If you want people to produce more consistent results, be more consistent in how you engage with them. A lot of times, I just had this conversation with a business owner yesterday, and we were laughing about the fact that as business owners, we're like, but I should be able to choose, right? So like, I can sometimes be flaky or not make it, or like, oh, hey, I got a bid that came in, or like a homeowner wants to meet with me. Well, what are we teaching the people on our team about how to be out there in the world representing us and our company? That if I have a good enough story, then I don't have to have a result. Well, a good enough story does not equal a result. So consistency really is a way to start to build muscle memory about we meet this day and we go over these things. And so now you also are creating a format where you're not just abdicating results. Because one of the things we fear, right, is, gosh, if I let it go, are they going to do it? Right? It's great that I got it on a piece of paper, but now what? That has to be followed up by there's some system whereby they have to show up to the meetings and go, yep, I met with the homeowner. Here's what the open issues or challenges are. And here's next actions. They don't just show up at a meeting with, what do you want to talk about, boss? Yep. They show up at the meeting prepared. And so do you. You have an agenda, you have a time frame, and you keep your agreement about, showing up and hold everybody else accountable to that too.
I-
That makes a huge difference in accountability.
Yeah, I said, Vicky, talk about kind of leadership in the team, and if you guys are paying attention, where she directly went was position agreements. This is what I have found in my career of doing this, of studying this and coaching this and watching the results of it. This is the start of it. Let's not have unclear expectations. Let's have very clear, specific, measurable results. And then the second thing should hit home to a lot of people listening to this of when you said, don't move the meetings and this and that. Well, I had that important thing come up and I've really only met one out of the last 4, or this concept of if you have a one-on-one meeting with your employee and they're just showing up and be like, what do you want to work on, boss? You are not leading properly. They should already know what that meeting is going to consist of. They have 5P'd it, proper preparation prevents poor performance. They have already gone in and prepared some things for it. And if you do that week in and week out, that is how we truly hand off responsibilities. They take leadership on things. We're able to lead them so much more effectively and consistently. It makes a lot of sense. And you also snuck in there, if you want to see a couple examples of some position agreements, I'm happy to share that with you. I hope some people heard that, because sometimes seeing a couple examples, or Vicky's got some training on this as well.
Happy to
Makes a
share an
difference.
outline for how to write one too.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah,
Very
and we-
generous of you for the 15-year birthday bash.
Woo-hoo. I want to let me finish sharing my story about Beth, because, and then I have one other thing I just want to share. As I was learning and shifting my practice, I rewrote her position agreement. I got her to sign on it. And then we set up this structure whereby she was going to be reporting to me every week, and she had to come to meetings that up until that point, I will just say, when I hired her, I was working 50, 60 hours a week. And my whole goal was to be able to spend more time with my son when I started my business. And I was no further ahead. 5 months into hiring her, I was still working that many hours. And it was out of that started to shift. And so as I implemented the position agreement with her, and I had her start to come to meetings prepared with, instead of my grilling her about what did you get done, and those meetings taking an hour and a half, they went down to 15 minutes. And within the next 4 years, 2 years, I went from making more money in my business than I ever had in the 4 years prior. And I went from working an average of 50 to 60 hours a week to an average of 30 to 35 hours a week. That's how you increase your profits and have more time in your day. And I was loving what I do way more than I had before. And it was and that was one of the biggest things that I did that really shifted things. And Beth, I was about to fire her 5 months in. And it was, she ended up working for me for over 8 years, one of the best employees I ever had. And, it worked out great. And I grew the business and she grew with me.
She wasn't as good as Bailey.
Well, I don't know, but Bailey's awesome. So anyway, the thing that I would leave you with is, if you want to start to shift and create a change with your team, if you want people to take more ownership, more accountability, get position agreements in place, get specific and measurable. And, and here's the thing that I found, and I've done this process hundreds of times with businesses. Choose the top 3 things that are the most important deliverables in that person's position and manage the heck out of it with them. Have them manage the heck out of it. So if it's a project manager, it's a schedule, it's a cost to complete, and it's the homeowner, it's on time, on budget as promised, right? It's being relentless with that. If it's the foreman, it's managing labor hours and 2-week look aheads and making sure that, the project is not like change orders, like there's not stuff slipping through the cracks. There's 3 critical things that make a difference in the success of every person's position. And when you identify those, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, Kyle, keep it simple, decide what's the place. There's a business health assessment, a free business health assessment on my website. If you go to suitorbusinessbuilders.com, you can get the free assessment. And it has this tool where it will help you evaluate every area of your business and where you might want to, and it gives you a rating. You rate it on a scale, but it'll give you some feedback about, hey, where do I want to look? Where's the most important place for me to begin to focus where profits are leaking out of my business? So, and you don't have to do that, but do something to evaluate it and then decide, all right, what are the 3 most important things I want to focus can really help me.
I mean, what you just hit on of like, if it's project manager, like what are the 3 most important metrics? Managing labor hours, or that was more of a foreman for a lead. Managing labor hours, 2-week look aheads, change orders. Project manager, schedule, cost to complete, the job costing on it, and then the client experience, on time, on budget as promised. And then, like you said, just measure that consistently and they should be able, the employee should be, if I walked up to the employee, this is kind of a good barometer for it, and said, you've got a position agreement, it's got some different things on it. What are your 3 main things that you guys are always talking about? If the employee is able to say, boom, da boom, da boom, ooh, we are onto something, because it's talked about so often and it's evaluated and measured so often. And like you're hinting at there, that's 80, those 3 things are 80-90% of what matters in their position. And if we don't have the clear position agreement and the clear KPIs, the clear expectations, we end up spending meetings that we do have talking about the frivolous stuff that really doesn't matter. We spend 45 minutes brainstorming how to have a 5-minute conversation with that drywaller because versus these are the most important things for you to do. And then they feel more in control of what's going on and how they're being measured and how they can continue to grow in their position. Position agreements, Vicky says. I like that. Paul McManus, it's always a risk to actually, can you unmute Paul? Bonus if you turn your video on. He might be in the middle of something, but I saw him comments earlier, so I was going to put him on the spot. Paul, I know you're not shy. Yeah, okay. He's too shy right now. Does anybody have a quick question or 2 for Vicky? If we go for another couple minutes here, or even there's some takeaways that I know you guys have from this, or kind of a next step from her little coaching and training of us. Todd, you said we use employment agreements with our staff too. Good. What's a takeaway or 2, or a quick question for Vicky? Vicky, we haven't talked about position agreements, and now all of a sudden I'm really fired up about position agreements again.
Good.
Like that's coaching 101 right there, of just like, we get so busy with other things. I'm like, man, that is important. And that does need to be talked about more and implemented more. I see some people typing. We'll give them a second. Wonderful. Leadership in general is like infinitely complicated. But what you just described there is an example of how we can lead in a much more peaceful, clear way. When we identify what's most important and we measure that consistently and talk about that consistently.
Yeah, I will say that it's interesting doing these interviews, and I chose people who I know and like and respect as leaders. But there are people who I've seen have done a great job in growing their businesses, growing their team, building better businesses, more profitable, that like have like a whole great life as well as an amazing company. And this whole thing about consistency and meeting and accountability and results driven and managing by results, those are just like those are the key pillars that is consistent among all the people that I've talked to and that I've seen over the years, in the most successful contractors. It's like, if you want to build muscle memory, right?
Yep.
You go to the gym once. It's the same kind of thing. It's you just do it repeatedly.
So you said you've been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing this for 15. What does my next 15 years look like? What do I have to look forward to, Vicky?
It's awesome. You get to this point where you have more and more fun all the time. I love what I do. Yeah, I absolutely love what I do.
Awesome. Wonderful. I think that is a time. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it doesn't look like there's any questions.
I know, punks. Sean just had one. How do you get employees to be more confident? They know the work and know the process, but act as if they can be influenced.
Here's the question. So when you say, so are these people, Sean, who like go, you can take yourself off on mute. Are these people who like go, well, how do you want me to do this? Or what do you think? They bring you problems and they sort of lob it over there.
Yeah, that would happen. A lot of the times too, it's more, so to paint the picture, this is somebody who was a laborer's helper in the field, but has been with me forever. Should be a carpenter at this point, but is actually better in the office because he has a PhD background and is good in the office stuff. But he's just not confident when he speaks. He's not confident in anything he does. So that translates to when he talks to anybody else in the field, he's not commanding it from them, and how to get him to just embrace it.
Yeah. So one of the, and you can see if this would work with this person, but one of the things that I've seen has really made a huge difference time and again in developing team's confidence, because people want to please you, first of all, right? And they don't want to be wrong. So part of the reason sometimes why they don't speak up as much, or they're always coming to you for questions, isn't necessarily that they don't know, it's they don't want to be wrong. And so one of a great question to ask is, that's an awesome question. Or going to somebody and saying, here's a situation, how would you handle that? Or they bring a situation to you and you go, how would you handle that? Well, I don't, and their first answer is always, I don't know. And you go, yeah, what if you didn't know? Just tell me, like, how would you do it? And then you have, what's great about that is you have this beautiful opportunity to go, you know what, you're spot on. That's exactly what I do. Or I love this part and this part, and you might shift to that part. Here's something that you might want to consider. But the more you can get somebody to have a voice, use that voice, and then what it does is it starts to build their confidence, and it starts to build their confidence, excuse me, in their ability to be able to problem solve on their own. And I've seen this, like a lot of times, sometimes it's much easier to just give somebody an answer. And I'm probably speaking to people more than just you about this, Sean, right? Like it's easy to give somebody an answer to just get it more down the road, but it's that, feed somebody or teach them to fish kind of thing, right? If we can get people to start to think more critically and more independently, and we can affirm that thinking by asking them their opinion or asking them how they would handle that, and getting them used to coming to you with a problem and then asking them how they would handle it, is a really beautiful way to start to build their own, confidence about how they're going to approach problem solving or dealing with issues, right? So there might be one suggestion I would have for you, is just start to ask that question. And I would encourage you to do that with everybody on your team. Like people come to you with a problem and go, well, how do you think that should be handled? And I appreciate sometimes we don't have the time for it, but if you want to develop a team that takes more ownership and rises up to their next level of greatness, which is our job as leaders, is start asking that question, invest that time, because it's it goes back to your 5 Ps, Kyle, right?
Yeah.
It's that whole thing of spending the time at the front end requires less time.
Yeah. If we have a long-term view of that, we realize being patient, answering that question with the question, having them fumble a little bit to figure it out and just try to guide them a little bit. The patience and the time that we exhibit there is going to pay itself back time and time again. It's the owners that always answer the question, and they think they're helping their employees. You ask me a question, I give you an answer. And then year after year of doing that, they look up and they're like, nobody is taking any responsibility. Everybody comes to me with everything. And you hinted at it earlier when you were talking about micromanaging. It's like, I realized that, what's the Taylor Swift song, Bailey? It's me, what?
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
I was hoping you were going to sing it, but fine. I thought this was a birthday bash, not just, I thought you were going to I literally thought you were going to grab like a fake microphone and be like, it's me.
Are you going to sing it?
No, because I don't really know any Taylor Swift. I just know that that's that line.
That part you did correct.
But it is a lot of times we got to look in the mirror and realize, I'm not leading well because I'm not empowering my team. So those are some good tips. Sean, was that helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. And Todd kind of hinted or kind of reiterated, stop being the easy button. They just come to us and we always give them the answer. Excellent. Let's give away another $100 Amazon gift card. Let's also give Vicki a little virtual clap. Thank you so much for doing some teaching and some sharing there, Vicki.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Kyle.
Yes, indeed.
Have fun the rest of your birthday bash.
I shall. We're cruising right along. Bailey, you got a little random number generator there?
Got a little random number. Number 18.
Number 18. Who's number 18 on the list?
Brian Sebring.
Brian Sebring. Hot diggity dog. As he's
All right.
as he's navigating from Nash. See you, Vicky. Catch you
Thank
later.
you.
As he's navigating from his one office in the Nashville area back to beautiful
He's in my
Chicago area.
home state of Indiana.
He's passing through.
My
Yes.
birth state. I really would call Michigan my home state, but
Oh,
I was
yes.
born in Indiana.
Yes. Whole Indiana. Okay, wonderful. Well, we're cruising right along. I see some people kind of come and go. It's kind of what we were expecting. To kind of recap what we've done so far is we had Josh Nelson come, we talked financials. We had Peter Rainey and Scott Blair talk about marketing and branding, share some good nuggets there. We looked at some of their fancy way they're approaching that. We had Tony Dixon talking about the sales process side of things. We did kind of a quick hitter on a variety of little coaching tidbits that I talk about often. And then Vicky Suter just went in flat out coaching training mode. Position agreements are the real deal. As far as helping us manage our key team members. So what we have remaining, it's already 2:42. So we got a little time here. It says kind of planning and mindset and kind of Kyle's story a little bit. And I've got kind of an idea of what I want to share for that. And then it says from 3 to 4 o'clock or however long it might be is a little virtual cocktail hour. See who hangs around with that. I need people to talk during that, share some stories, what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their business, questions, etc. Would be great. So I want to do in the next little 20 minutes here, I'm going to post in the little chat box a link to a Dropbox. I shouldn't have posted that yet, but it's there. You click on it here in a second. But I'll share. I just want to share, since it's my birthday bash. I was going to share kind of a little bit of how I started my business, and then it kind of segues into what I wanted to kind of just walk you guys through. That hopefully will be a value add to you. It's hard to throw a 4-hour birthday bash with the and with the concept of I don't really want to talk about myself too much. I just want to deliver value. But we're doing good. We're doing good. You guys have a lot of takeaways. And I just recorded 5 podcasts. Usually at Remodelers on the Rise, here's how the podcasts work. We record a podcast on Tuesday, and then we publish that podcast on Thursday. And Bailey's always like, we don't have a podcast for this week. Come on, let's go. Now she's going to back off. We got like 7 podcasts we're going to get out of this little birthday bash. Yes. I'm excited about that. So if you can indulge me for a minute, I tell you a little bit just of how I started my business and kind of where it's been. And then I'm going to segue it into this little resource that I think would be helpful. So the year was 2008. I ended up, I worked for a remodeler out of college. It kind of came through a little entrepreneurial venture that I have. I'll rewind the clock a little bit. I created a spreadsheets. There weren't apps back in the day for this. I created some spreadsheets for my high school baseball coach. Track the Team, it was called. Enter in the stats, it tallies everything up, pitching, hitting, fielding, etc. And in college, being the little entrepreneur I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take these spreadsheets. I'm going to create a website called Track the Team. I think if you go to tracktheteam.com, it still shows up. Actually, let's just take a second to do that. I haven't been there in quite a long time. Let's see if it still is hosted. Hot diggity dog. There it is. Track the Team. Look at that fancy logo. And what was I selling it for? Let's see what that looks like. Does that page still work even? Every time I see the domain name pop up, I just renew it for whatever reason. $24.95. Holy cow, I was giving it away. So I sent it out to a bunch of high schools in Michigan, baseball coaches, softball coaches, and said, hey, if you need something snazzy to track your team statistics, here's what it is. One of the gentlemen that bought it was a guy named Jim Long. He was the assistant softball coach for Northville High School here in Michigan. And Jim is not super computer savvy, ended up having some questions about the software, called me, the spreadsheets, and walked through it. And he goes, so it said on your little sales thingy that you're a student? I said, yeah, I go to Western Michigan. I'm graduating this year. He said, well, let me hear if they're teaching this stuff at school. He goes, we're looking to create this position in our remodeling company. We do remodeling, we do plumbing, heating, cooling, and we're looking for somebody to handle all of our marketing and all of our advertising. It was right, probably 4 months before I was graduating, and it was quite providential. And it was like, buddy, you are talking about me here. We should sit down and meet and just get to know each other a little bit. Played around of golf, and he kind of offered me the job on the spot. So I started working for this remodeling company and plumbing, heating, cooling as well. Started with all their marketing and advertising side of things. Got into the showroom, managing their 4-bath and kitchen designers. Got involved on the financial side of the business. Ended up implementing a thing called duct tape marketing, which was a small business marketing system in the business. And it was probably 3, maybe going on 4 years into that, when I turned to my wife and I said, honey, you're a stay-at-home mama. We got 1 kid, another one on the way. It's a crappy economy here in Michigan. We got no money in the bank to fall back on, and I want to quit my job and start my own business. And of course, being the lovely lady she is, she just said, oh, that sounds wonderful. There I go, using her voice again. Earlier, I was making her sound bad. Now I'm making her sound like an 80-year-old woman. Oh, that sounds a British old woman. Oh, that sounds wonderful, Kyle. It was something like that. And I ended up turning my former employer into my first client. I kind of said, all right, Jim, thank you so much for being willing to work with me here. And I started going in there 4 days a week, and then 3 days a week, and then 2 days a week, and then 1 day a week. And part of my confidence in doing this is I invested 10 grand to become a duct tape marketing coach. So I had this book that this guy named John Jantz wrote, simple, practical, effective, small business marketing system, and said, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. And it was shortly after I started my business that I started to take some of my own medicine of what I was teaching, which was don't be all things to all people. And I kind of put my flag in the ground and said, I like this remodeling industry. I know this remodeling industry. I'm going to start reaching out to the home builders associations around the state of Michigan and saying, I got these 10 top marketing tips, and see if I can get some opportunities to present in front of these groups. There's 20 plus home builder associations around the state of Michigan. And all of a sudden I picked up a few little speaking gigs. I remember trembling and shaking, speaking at the Lansing Home Builder Association. It was nerve wracking. And I picked up a couple clients in Lansing, picked up a couple clients in Bay City, and I was kind of off and rolling. So I started out, my business was called Remodel Your Marketing. And it wasn't until, I don't know, 3 years or so ago that we rebranded. Huh?
Did you have a hammer in the logo?
I think there was a hammer in the logo.
There
Yes.
was.
Yeah. Peter and Scott would not be impressed with that per earlier. Yeah, there was a hammer in it. Yellow was the kind of the color scheme for a while there. Yeah, et cetera. So I kind of was just primarily doing marketing. And then over the years, as I continued to work with more and more remodelers, I got a little break to speak at the International Builder Show, started doing a little bit of podcasting, started writing some articles, getting in with Remodeling Magazine. The more and more I worked with remodelers, the more my coaching kind of expanded from just marketing focused to sales process, to financials, to just overall leadership. So some of you have been around for a while and kind of know me from back in the Remodel Your Marketing days and primarily just doing marketing. And then over the years, it developed into kind of the 4 areas that I do most of my coaching with now, which is financials, sales process, marketing, and leadership. So that's a little bit of my business story. Bailey, should I share more about that, or is that good for now?
I think you should share a little bit more. Like, I want to hear a story from early on in your business that I've never heard before. That was my goal for this half hour.
I did hint at it. I mentioned the Lansing Home Builder Association. So my first 2 speaking gigs, my first one was actually in my backyard at the Livingston County HBA. And I remember having my little 10 tips and literally my hands going like this. And I had done some public speaking. I was part of a B&I chapter. I was the president of the B&I chapter for the remodeling company I was working with. But boy, it was outside my comfort zone. A reminder to all of us, when we're starting something new, sometimes it freaks us out. Sometimes it's very challenging. And then over time, it gets better. So I remember vividly that. But the story, I don't know if you've heard this one before. And I'm going to have to remember his name. But the second gig I had was at the Lansing Home Builder Association. Oh, my original intern is joining. Jake Curtin, Bailey's younger brother. This is exciting. Tell him to mute, though. He immediately unmuted like he's going to start talking. Tell him to pipe down already. Get that boy under control. Was at the Lansing Home Builder Association. It was an evening meeting. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen, like, at home builder associations, there's some kind of rough and tough and tumble builder looking guys. And there was a gentleman in the front row, and he basically sat there like this the whole time while I was talking. A little 26-year-old me going, with my tips. And I said, all right, we got a little time for Q&A. Does anybody have any questions? And he raised his hand. He was the first one. He goes, hey, if this marketing stuff, if this generating lead stuff and this, selling the projects are so easy, why don't you go ahead and start your own remodeling business and do it? That's literally, it wasn't really, I guess there was a question in there. And I just remember going, whoo, I better continue to get better at this. And I handled him fine. And I probably made a joke or something or whatnot. But that was a rough start to my speaking career. That's only gone better since then. But that guy and I ended up, of course, becoming pretty good buddies. But I can't remember his name. It's been like 15 years. Is this part of what happens when you get older is you forget people's names? Probably want to get worse from here. It's going to drive me nuts until I can remember his name, though. So that's a little bit of background. Yes.
Hey, Kyle, when did you have the Remodelers Excellence Club? What years?
Yes, the Excellence Club. That was probably 2012, maybe 2013-ish.
Yeah, I think you're right, 2012-ish. I was just curious because it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. The coaching side of things, it's almost, I'd kind of liken it to probably how a lot of you guys that started your businesses of, you kind of start and, hey, bring me any and all projects. I'll take that on. Yeah, that's just a repair job. I'll take that on right early on. And you kind of experiment, you learn through it. And what Brian was a part of was something called the Excellence Club, $97 a month. Cheap, inexpensive. We did multiple training sessions. We had a Q&A session going, and we kind of dug into just different areas of the business. And that was Brian was an early client in that, and I remember that being quite impactful for a lot that you implemented and happened as a result of that. So over the years, I've kind of done different things, different roundtable groups. You heard Tony earlier talking about, him being in more of a roundtable. I have a couple just kind of legacy groups of non-compete remodelers in Michigan that we get together every couple months and spend a day together. Have a couple of those groups. More recently, the VIP club. We, done courses, done different things. The way things are kind of sitting right now is, after 15 years of doing this, is the VIP club is kind of a very key aspect of my coaching and of my business. That was started up last year. Year number 2 is happening right now. It's got in-person events that are part of it. It's got ongoing coaching around these key pillars. It's been a lot of fun and working really well for folks. And then, doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. If you look at my schedule and my calendar, what you'd see is a lot of one-on-one meetings that I have throughout the week. We're 255 episodes into the podcast. That's kind of a reminder of when you're doing something that's working, just being consistent with it makes a big difference. But where I was kind of going after just kind of sharing the story is to make it a little more value add for you guys is I'm kind of at the point in my business, I've been thinking a lot about this the last 6 months or so is, kind of what's next? What's next, right? You get to through some different doors of growth in your business, of figuring things out. I feel like I've kind of put my 10,000, that book that was written of, you kind of an expert after you spent your 10,000 hours really in the trenches doing it. Wait, Emily, did I just see somebody waving at me? Who is that guy?
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. He's just as good looking as last time I saw him.
All right. Sorry, everybody. I'll see you guys.
No, you're fine. I just saw you waving. Oh, and here comes Lori too. Okay, good. Some of these people are just dialing in for the cocktail hour. They didn't want any of the training stuff. I can see what's going on now. But part of what I've been thinking a lot about is like, what is the next chapter or the next chapters kind of look like? I've had people reach out related to wanting to get involved in coaching. Do I want to grow a business where I have multiple Remodelers on the Rise coaches that allows us to do more one-on-one coaching? Do I want to continue to grow bigger? Do I need to be making more revenue? Do I want more team members? There's all kinds of things that I think as business owners, frankly, especially in the remodeling world, it's something that we evaluate and go, bigger is not always better. Sometimes we find a sweet spot that really works for us, and we should just kind of sit in that sweet spot. At the same time, if we just kind of get a little complacent and we're not thinking through how are we going to continue to grow and improve, that's also a recipe a lot of times that that leads to us being stagnant or kind of regressing, frankly. So one of the things I wanted to kind of just share with you as part of this kind of planning or vision or mindset thing is this is an exercise that I walked the VIP club through right at the tail end of last year. And again, the link for it, I'll answer that question a little bit, Nancy. That's a good one. The link to it is something I just posted in the chat a little bit ago. But I would recommend kind of having this open and maybe printing this out and just going through the exercise of answering these questions. What is your longish term vision for your business? And the reason I think it's important for all of us to do it is if we can get clear on kind of where we're heading with our business, what are some of our goals of what we're trying to accomplish, it's a lot easier to reverse engineer that back and see what do I need to be doing or working on next to get to there. If we aren't casting a bit of a vision of what we're trying to build and what we want it to look like, not only the business to look like, but our work-life balance to look like, what I have found in my 15 years of coaching is we kind of just keep our head down and we're just working more week by week by week by week by week versus thinking a little bit more big picture, a little bit more strategically on why we're doing what we're doing and where we're going. So this exercise of even the first question I think is pretty interesting. Active years left. How many more years would you estimate you're going to be actively involved in your business? I think that's a super interesting question because for some people, it's like, crap, maybe 10? Well, 10 years is nothing. But if you answer that and it's 20, or in my case, I would say, how old am I? 40. I can see 20 years. I could see 25 years, but 20 years from now is going to look differently. My friend Vicky, who just left, she spent a week in Italy or a month in Italy with her husband 2 months ago. She's been working towards that vision for many years, but she's also put her 30 years into the business. She's designed it around that. How can I design my business in a way that allows me to do some of my goals or things that I want to do outside of it? So I would encourage you, and let's actually look through a little bit of this. As of now, how well is your business supporting the life that you're desiring to lead? Is it providing you with enough time, money, energy, excitement, balance, etc.? Write out some honest thoughts. That's important for us to consider. If you follow my work for any time, I talk a lot about just kind of the work-life balance side of things and making sure that our business is supporting the life that we're trying to lead versus, our business kind of running us around. And then rear view mirror, what tangible progress have you already made the last, let's say, 5 years towards your business supporting the life that you're desiring to lead? We don't spend enough time kind of seeing the progress that we've already made. Okay. And then down here is a little bit more of answer the following questions with more of your long-term vision in mind. That could be 10 years, that could be even 5 years, that could be 3 years. You can kind of choose what that looks like, but it goes around the horn to a variety of different topics to get you thinking about your vision. What is different about the work you personally are doing in your business? Write out some things you'll be doing more of and some things you'll be doing less of. Let's say 5 years out. When it comes to your work, what does that look like 5 years out for you and thinking about that? What about your team? Approximately how many employees do you have? And what are some of the new positions you've added to your business? Again, casting a little bit of a vision for that. Company culture, describe the culture of your future business and how is it different than it is now? Types of projects you're taking on. Perhaps taking a stab at what you think your company revenue is going to need to be at based on some of what you're casting a vision on. Yeah, so you can kind of see what those look like. So that's what I wanted to touch on in the planning and sharing Kyle's story is number one, sharing my story a little bit. You heard that one. And then number two, giving you this tool and this resource that I would love for each of you to just take a stab at working through and completing. And Bailey, just because we're friendly and the people that have dialed in, if you want to link them to and put that in there of the lesson we did on that, where we kind of unpack that, I'd be happy to do that. That would be wonderful. Cool. So what do we have here? Jake Curtin, can you unmute?
How we doing?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasant surprise. You're the first non-remodeler who was dialed in, and I was happy to see you. Were you aware that 3 o'clock hour starts the virtual cocktail hour?
I was trying to jump on at 2:30 to see the Kyle lesson. But I got a little carried away. I'm studying for my property and casualty license as we speak. So I got a little carried away and realized it was 15 minutes into it. Grabbed my computer charger and here we are.
Here you are. Wonderful. And if some of you who just dialed in, Bailey is Jake's older sister. And Jake was my first intern at Remodel Your Marketing back in the day. He really, like he would say, really the impetus for the growth and success that this business has had in the future years after he left. That's how
Was
that
that
went down.
8 years ago?
At least. You would know better than I.
Jake walked so I could run.
Jake walked so that you could run. There you go. Cool. So let's give away another $100 Amazon card if we could be so kind. And then let's also give away another beautiful Yeti mug and another beautiful hat. Like it could be this hat, or it could be something like this. It depends on what Bailey's got in her Rolodex over there.
It's gonna be that one. That's what I have in the Rolodex.
So let's kick off the final home stretch of the 15-year birthday bash by giving away some things. We've at every half hour since 12 o'clock, we have done a $100 Amazon gift card. We've got all kinds of winners so far. So
number 7 is the
number
first
7
one, or is the first one, the Amazon card.
Who happens to be that person? We're just going through the list. And
Emily Davis. You are the winner.
She just literally responded. She was like, that was a good response.
It was a good response.
Me?
Yeah. She's like, I didn't have to listen to any of that financials or marketing or sales process crap. I'm just here to have a drink and virtual cocktail hour.
I'm already implementing it all, so
you know. That's true. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bailey. Good to see you guys.
Yes,
Good to see you
indeed.
too. Next is the Yeti.
So much fun.
Susie, the Yeti mug is yours.
Appropriately so. I believe Susie has been dialed in since the start.
She has been. And then hat, is that what we're giving away?
Yes, we're giving away a hat.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Susie. It's our pleasure. And it's not one of those knockoff Yetis. It's like legit Yeti.
Truth.
Just getting a hat.
Matt, you're getting the hat.
Matt Stevenson getting a fresh lid. And he likes wearing hats too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Way to dial in. Now, I would say this part of the festivities is the part that I was most worried about, folks, because I knew that from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we had guests coming on. We had kind of training and coaching and topics to share. And the agenda from here until whenever we're done, which will be no later than 4 o'clock because I have to take kids to orientation, is kind of just open. I'm already seeing some more videos, which is helpful. I wouldn't mind seeing some more videos. And it's just kind of, imagine that we are all kind of getting together just for a little drink and a little hangout, a little chit-chatting. And we're kind of maybe in a little circle. We do this at the VIP club at the end of it, and we just kind of sit down and kind of recap what we learned or what we're struggling with, or just questions for me or questions for the group. And we just kind of chit chat and enjoy each other's company for a little bit. So the reason I was nervous about that is because, is anybody actually going to participate in this, or are we just going to sit here awkwardly? That's the concern. But I have a feeling that a couple people will probably kick this off with a couple topics or a little story they want to share. Could even be just flat out related to your day or your week, or, hey, here's a reminder for y'all. You know how clients do this sometimes? I just experienced that. It could be stuff like that as well. All kinds of options. And thanks for dialing in. It's been fun.
Kyle, what are you drinking for this virtual happy hour?
Well, I on my run out the door this morning, I thought to myself, I should probably grab something, but then I was kind of running late for a meeting with Dylan Drummer. And the only thing in our fridge right now are some seltzers of sorts. So literally all I have here is some water. Now there is a mutual friend of ours who is right next door. They happen to be local pastors. Bailey's best friend is it's her brother over there. Now, do you think the good pastors next door have some liquor in there?
I think they have something. If I were a betting
They probably do.
girl, I'd be betting.
Yeah, I don't know if they're over there or not, but so what I like to drink typically, so it may be a little dry for me for the next hour, but what I like to typically drink is something that kind of looks manly but tastes really fruity. That's my jam. That's my jam. Okay. All right, Steve, thanks for dialing in. Does anybody have a question or a topic or something that's on their mind?
I'll get you started.
Boy.
I figured I don't want to sit here awkwardly with everyone else. So
that's right.
Compared to last year, or the year before, everyone's topic was how do we get more staff because I'm so slammed. I can't, I'm not spending any marketing dollars, but everyone's coming to me to get tons of work done. And I would imagine that it's changed a little bit for people. So I'd love to get a round robin of just trying to understand what the market is in their area, and then what is working marketing wise. I mean, we all talk about Houzz and Facebook and Google, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Is there anybody that's kind of surprised on a couple things? Not one good job. I'm talking about something where they've seen consistency start to come through in the last 6 months. And then with that, currently are leads up for you in in August? Compared to 3 months ago? I'm just curious to get to see the temperature of the climate of everyone's market.
Good. All right. So I heard a couple things there. One, is there something marketing related that's been moving the needle? Kind of, we've put effort and focus in this area of marketing and it's working well for us. That's one thing that Brian was asking there. And then number two, trying to get kind of a pulse of, what are we seeing as far as just kind of across the board? Are things slowing down a little bit lead wise? Let's just do a little popcorn around that. So just unmute and then just kind of share what you're seeing.
I will.
Yep, Todd.
So I would say we're in Seattle market, which is typically pretty strong. Leads definitely dropped off in the last 3 months. They are starting to tick up. I've been in this 20th years, done very little marketing. That's something that I'm working towards changing. But due to the lull in leads, I did what I typically would do and reach out to our long list of past great clients. And I've gotten some traction on that, where it's generated sales calls. It's not sold any work into design yet. I will say, I feel like the market is shifting from being order takers these last 2-3 years to actually having to sell work and to market, right back to what you were saying, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely seeing that shift in our market. We're just finishing up the jobs that we had people waiting 1 to 2 years to do for them at that time. So I think for us, we're kind of at the tail end of that order taking to actually having to go out and, look for work.
Good. Let's get a couple more people.
We're over here.
Okay.
We're over. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
No, we're over in the Southeast Florida area, and we're starting to see the same thing. Leads, which were just couldn't get to the phone fast enough. We're starting to see them get a little bit less. A little bit of uptick in the last 3 weeks, but the quality of leads, you definitely have people who are definitely a little more shop conscious. So we have upticked our referral basis. So we've started looking at realtors who are representing buyers, and we're making sure that the houses that they're selling are of a certain price point. And we're trying to get in front of them, working out different relationships to where there's a win-win for that. We are constantly adjusting our Google. We just talked with our Google team yesterday and started paying attention to where our money's going for ad clicks.
In particular, you've been doing some AdWords, right?
Yeah, and we're actually seeing what we're monitoring who's landing on our webpage and what turns into a contact. And now we just started 2 weeks ago talking to some of our trade partners that we really love working with, actually giving them incentives. So if we get a referral that turns into a design and development agreement signed with a fee, that they will get a referral fee for that.
Okay, good. You can unmute, or if you want to type in the chat box kind of what the leads are doing. One more person, then I'll share some thoughts. What are we seeing in Ohio or Charlotte or?
I'll talk about Charlotte. Hold on. We have been slow in August, but
Lori, how do you feel about your sister winning $100?
The beginning of the year, and our project development process that we learned from Kyle we have a very high close rate once we get somebody signed up for project development. We're pretty small in Charlotte, in this market, and our niche is a very small part of town. The houses aren't huge, so there's a lot of people who want additions, and we're starting to do more additions and that sort of thing. But most of our business comes from referrals from architects, designers, and yard signs, because it's just so niche what we've decided to do that it's, we're just staying in our lane. But yeah, it's a really good market in Charlotte.
Yeah, sounds like it's still pretty hot. How do you feel about your sister winning $100 a gift card and you losing?
I'm going to make her spend some of it on me.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see how that works. Okay. I'd say from kind of my pulse of talking to folks, definitely there's been, there was a little bit of time where it's like, well, it's kind of the start of summer, so maybe it's just kind of the summer thing. I would definitely say across the board, and I'm talking to people from around the country, leads are not as prevalent as they were. I'd say even that goes back almost over the last 10 months or so. I would say, lead flow being a little bit less, lead quality also kind of being a little bit less. The biggest thing I've heard pretty consistently, and heard a little bit, and now I'm hearing it much more consistently, is it is just harder to get them across to the signed contract. This idea of, man, once they sign design development agreement, I don't know, we're closing 95%. They just close. I mean, of course it does. It being harder, even people that are signing for a design development agreement, to get them to sign on the dotted line. Now, is it way harder than it was in 2018, 2019, or are we just so used to fish in a barrel and things being a lot easier and different the last few years that we're just kind of shocked that it's not going as smoothly? It's probably a combination of all of that. Where my mind goes is, yes, leads are not as prevalent. We need to take marketing more seriously. You just heard 4 or 5 different ideas there, and we shared some during this as well. And then probably the bigger thing, and Todd, you were hitting at it, of like, we got to sell. We gotta bring our best foot forward with selling. We have become I've been talking about this a lot with clients over the last many months. We've gotten a little complacent and lazy when it comes to our sales process. Are you sending, a thank you card out after you initially meet with them? That's a nice best practice. After you set an appointment with them, are you sending a nice professional email of what they can expect and really building some know, like, and trust and differentiation there? How are we doing with cycle time? If projects are tougher to get across the finish line, they become even tougher if we're just dragging out the design development agreement and the design development process. How do we reduce that cycle time? So really focusing in on how can we really differentiate ourselves, build value during the sales process, and sell better than we ever have before, or maybe as we used to do, type thing. So yeah, Brian, what you're kind of experiencing, everybody kind of echoed it, and then I'm definitely seeing kind of across the board too. Yeah, you heard some strategic partners there. I just recorded a podcast with Tiffany. Yeah, I knew it started with a T. Tiffany Welsh out in Cape Cod, where she put some hyper focus on strategic partners, in particular realtors, and have been seeing some good fruit from that. Continue to get those Google reviews, look at search engine optimization. Those are some things that a lot of remodelers have been focused in on. Cool. What's another topic out there, folks? random question, fun question,
I've got a question.
other topic? Yes, please.
This is something that's come up for us just in a
When was
project.
it, Todd? When was the last time you were on that longboard thingy-majig in your back and behind you?
Oh, I don't want to hurt myself. It's just for looks anymore.
I mean, we're talking like the last time was like 2004 or what?
Oh, I've got a different one. That one's just for looks. I've got a different one that's easier to ride. It's probably been last summer.
Okay. All right. So you're still in the game then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just don't ride, ramps and half pipes and all that anymore. So I'm just more of a cruiser now.
Okay.
So my
As you were
question
saying.
is, we've got this clause, this is one of our clauses in our contract, but we've never exercised it, where we reserve the right from our clients to prove that they've got the financial means to fund their project, because it's never been an issue. And we've got a project that we're 2/3 of the way through. It's a pretty substantial renovation. I think the contract amount's like $650K. And it just came to my attention, they're behind progress payments by a month. We just sent out the next one and they've approved about $50K worth of change orders that needed to happen, right? And so come to find out that, we had this conversation with them early on. We came to them with a design that they didn't meet their budget. And we said, well, we have an alternative. And they said, no, we'll come up with the money for this other thing that we want. So we started. And now their plan to get their funding apparently changed. So they're scrambling to figure out how to pay for the rest of this project to the tune of $250K.
Ugh.
But anyhow, my question is, we've had this clause that we ask people that we want to know that you're being funded. You need to provide us with that information. Does anybody do that, or has anybody done that just as a general good practice?
Cocktail hour so serious. This cocktail hour is so serious so far.
Right? I'm sorry. Is that too much?
No, it's real. It's real is what it is. There ain't nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a real problem. You probably need a lot of alcohol to deal with this one.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I'm not too concerned with it. I talked to the owner, and we're not like stopping work yet. They're dipping into their retirement fund, which is never a good idea because it costs a lot of money to take that money out. But that's their plan. They're just trying to minimize the damage if it's not a hardship, right? So we're trying to help with them, work with them to get their 401 consultant to consider it a hardship, which more than likely it's not going to be. But anyhow,
has anybody done that, of doing the proactive work up front? And then the second thing I'll comment on, I've very rarely heard of one of my clients doing it, having the ability or the option to do it. I have heard of that, having it in the contract. But what you're saying of, it came to my attention that the progress payment for the month before hadn't been paid. We approved change orders, plus we had a new progress payment. That is probably even a bigger aspect of, man, when somebody's beyond 1 week after a progress payment, I want to be alerted. I want it to be a big deal in this company. We've got to jump all over that. Or maybe you change it to where, when change orders happen, change orders get paid right that week. We don't even add it to the next progress payment.
All that stuff is in place, and that typically is happening. Usually we don't get too concerned. Luckily, we have enough cash reserve that it's not going to put us out of business or anything. Obviously, we want to collect that money, right? So that's a piece of it. I think just being complacent and knowing that it's not, we're going to go out of business tomorrow kind of situation. Luckily that we're in a position that we don't have to worry about that.
I would say I'd like you to act like that a little bit more though.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Hey, we're going to continue to work, but we need this. You got to be a little less Mr. Nice Guy on it.
Yeah. Absolutely, Kyle, for sure. So really my question was, does anybody have, does anybody do this as a general practice for any project they take on, to ask their clients to provide proof that they've got, the financial means to pay for their project?
Anyone got some experience with that? Either unmute or toss it in the old chat box.
So we all just assume everyone says they have the money they're going to use to buy it, basically. It's just a trust thing. Until it doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah, we have that same clause in our contract. Based on experience years ago with a young couple that came with a budget, and turned out they actually hadn't applied for the home equity loan. You know, they had signed with us, we were moving forward. They hadn't applied for the loan, got denied. And then, of course, we, you know, got stuck with time on our hands because we had this big project not go forward. So we have it in there, but we haven't had to use it since then. But I think it's just a good proactive thing so that if you do have any questions or uneasy feelings about, are they going to be able to afford what you're, you know, they're signing for, you have that right then to check on it. If you need to.
Yeah. I mean, our clientele, I'm assuming they all have the means to pay for this. I mean, you know, for what we provide.
What Sean just said, I would make sure that there's a date and point that is agreed upon within the company that work stops no matter what, then communicate that with the homeowners for them to be aware of it. I think the other thing that is a lesson for you and everybody is, one, if you don't have that in there, it would be good to add that to your contract. But two, when you're going through the contract and you get to that section, you may not do the full due diligence of having them submit things, but it is very well within your rights to say, you know, there's a lot of money involved in this project. There's progress payments. 97% of the time, we've never had any issues, but sometimes, you know, we've had a project here or there. I'm going to ask you, how are you guys funding this? Is this through ... Is this through this? Making sure every time it comes up, next time you're going to make a bigger deal. And then if you don't like the answer to that or something seems off, then maybe you do be a little more proactive with it. Go ahead, Lori.
That's what I do say to people. I ask them how they're going to fund, and I ask them if they need time to move money around so that I know how much in advance to be billing them in order for them to be able to make their payments. But I also am just curious, if you did do that and your project doesn't start for 6 months and you get 6 months into it, like, how does it even matter if they verified their funding a year ago? Like, I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
We're doing a whole home remodel right now, which on contract is about $450. We signed the contract, and 2 weeks right afterwards, the homeowner called and be like, "Hey, we're selling our house. That's how we're funding for some of this stuff, but it looks like it's taking a lot longer." So we had a clear communication of like, well, we can do up to this point. At this point, you need to provide this much money, but let's telegraph it and things like that. But I did tell them that if we get to that line and we have to do that, this is what it looks like clearly. But I also put an email and had a lawyer look at it, had them sign it, that if we do have to pull off the job, that there is a added fee for, you know, breakdown and startup also for moving the whole crew. And I said, that will be enforced no matter what. And I'm like, I'm saying this because I care about you guys, but I care about my team more. That was also, my lawyer added on to that some interest to it for every month that it's not taken care of. And that apparently was what it took for whoever they were getting more financing from to realize, oh, we need to move forward. So I don't know if that helps, but I know when that email went out, whoever was helping with the funding started getting to work fast.
It's about setting expectations, having the conversation. Don't make assumptions, just like everything else in our business, right? Whether it's employees, clients, vendors, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
and if all else fails,
I appreciate everyone's input and feedback.
Yeah. And if all else fails, get on your longboard and catch some fresh air.
If all else fails, maybe we fund them, maybe we fund their project at 12%, right? And right? And we make some money off the deal. They win, and it gives them some more time to pay us back.
Perhaps.
I mean, that was something that'd probably be a lot less expensive than taking it out of their 401k.
Yeah.
For them.
I'd want some very, I'd be wanting to feel very confident. Somebody that I'm taking money out of 401k feels risky.
Well, right. And then it's tied to their house. Worst case, they sell the house and I buy it for a fraction of its worth, and I own it and I can rent it back to them.
There you go. Cool. What's another topic or question that's out there? Comment or lesson learned or something related to coaching that you've experienced, etc. What else is on your guys' minds? This water is delicious, by the way.
Kyle, what's your hidden talent?
Is that did Bailey seed that question? Someone asked Kyle about his hidden talent for rapping about the Revolutionary War and tell you about the artwork in his office. Well, that's less serious. I mean, I've done that. I wrapped in front when I was deep down this is related to the musical Hamilton. Anybody familiar with the musical Hamilton? Oh man, it's a piece of art. And I went deep down the Hamilton rabbit trail. And I remember it came up or something during my talk at the Kalamazoo Home Builder Association, and somehow it ended with me actually rapping, and it did not have the reception that I experienced, and it was kind of embarrassing, and it's really made me hesitate to then rap in front of people from then. But I do have the entire Hamilton musical about the $10 founding father without a father who got a lot farther by working a lot smarter, by working a lot harder. I've got the whole thing memorized, including Lafayette, who is taking this horse by the reins, making red coats rather with blood stains, and he's never going to stop until they make him drop and burn him up and scatter the remains. It's all just, I can't memorize words very well. Like if you said, here's a paragraph, memorize that, but you put it to music, and I'm
that was getting
savant.
applause, Kyle. I don't know if you can see all the people, but there was applause.
Yeah, I saw it. I'm a bit of an idiot savant. My daughter, who's kind of noticed in this 15-year anniversary, because that's when I quit my job, was Piper. And where were we driving? Oh, we were driving from northern Michigan home 3 hours. We literally, it was just the two of us in the car, and we started at the start of Hamilton and sang through the entire thing because she loves it as well. So I hadn't listened to Hamilton in like 6 months, but that was like a week ago. Love Hamilton.
You can literally rap the whole thing.
Yeah, Jim.
Wow.
Name a song, Jim.
I can't.
Yeah. Okay. And then what did you say, Bailey? Some art about the artwork in my office?
You have cool artwork in your office, and a lot of times people don't get to see it.
I kind of have a little dinky. It's a little dinky office. I did have a bigger office upstairs in this building, and then when we moved 2 years ago, it had an office at home, and I said, talk about when I started my business, worked in the basement of my house, 2008, 2009. When I could scrounge up enough money, I rented a place for $300 a month because I was working in an unfinished basement. We had little kids running around. When my wife was really frustrated of like, I know you're working, but can you not hear these kids screaming? She would then start playing the piano above me just to like be kind of like help me, please, be passive aggressive. That's the word I was looking for. So I rented I learned early on, everything works better when I don't work from home. But 2 years ago, I'm like, this is a cool office. I'm going to start working from home. But it was an office. It's right off the main area of the house. And it turns out I talk really loud. When I start coaching, I talk really loud. It just was not working. So I moved back into this building that my buddy owns. That's just a Michigan thing there. But here, I'll grab a couple of things since Bailey asked. Here's the first thing. This is the, you guys may not realize I won the award in 2014 for distinguished service to the remodeling industry from the Home Builder Association of Southeast Michigan, back when the business name was Remodeler Marketing. And I thought at first, I'm like, well, they had this big like tie affair, not black tie, but tie affair. And my wife went with me, and I was like, well, this is just because my client, Ben, really likes the work I do, and he just nominated me. And I was kind of like downplaying it, but it ended up being a really, really good experience and fun experience. I'm kind of was like, I've been working really hard at this, and I just won an award. And my wife came, and she's like, well, look at my man up there winning an award. So it ended up being something that was very cool. And then I'll show two more. This one, I think I made a piece of content about that. That says, good work isn't cheap, and cheap work isn't good. Amen, brother Kyle. Darn right. And then let me grab one other thing so you can.
Do you have the wolf one? Take his headphones off. We'll have to see when he comes back.
This is what did I do? I remember buying this. This was, my wife was out of town, and it was late at night, and I started looking up maps. Big map guy. Love maps. Fun facts. This happens to be like an 1860s authentic map of Michigan. Now, if you know anything about Michigan, you realize the west coast of Michigan is not straight. But it was so early on. I think it might have been actually like the 1820s. I had to open it up. This is like a really, really old school map of Michigan and the Great Lakes. And I love it. I love maps.
Do you have that wolf?
Yeah, that's no longer.
Or is it no longer there? Okay.
No, because remember when I moved out of the other office, and you and other curtains, Jake might have been there too, moved all of the stuff out of my office because I had to be out by a certain date, and I was in the basement with COVID.
I remember that.
Yeah, so you guys took that off the wall and I didn't bring it back.
Can I
Should we
ask
wanna-
you about the Britney Spears headset going? Because that was not around back in my day.
This is new from your intern days, is the Britney Spears headset. This has been a staple. This has been a staple of the coaching look for a long time. It's just a simple Logitech, about $25, about the third time I've gone through these. Fits my ears perfectly. I can wear them all day. It doesn't hurt my ears. Sound is good. Nice upgrade.
I think the real thing with that one is, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Kyle moves around a lot while he talks. And if you have a normal microphone in
That
front of
wouldn't
you, it doesn't always work because then you turn away from it. But when you have the Britney Spears thing, you always get good audio.
Brittany was in the news again. I think she's going through another divorce. Poor girl.
Mhm.
Okay. Why do I know that? I shouldn't know that. I should be more focused on that, of not clicking on some random news site and being like, oh, Britney
Because you're
Spears.
in your like 15-year-old girl mode.
Perhaps.
Something a 15-year-old girl knows.
It's true. What's another, thank you for lightening that up with some Hamilton rap and some artwork stuff. What's another topic or story or question or something like that? Laura, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
So
this is the Remodelers on the Rise 15-year birthday bash. We're rounding the corner heading for home here.
So this is a really basic question, but I feel like I want to ask you and everybody here this question. We are very loyal to our trades because we feel so happy and comfortable and our jobs go so perfectly and blah, 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 that we don't shop them very often. And we ended up shopping them this past week, and holy crap, our electrician is gouging us. And I just wonder how often people do that and how.
Nancy, unmute, because I literally think that exact same happened with your electrician a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's just kind of sad. It's a sad feeling because now I feel like we have to go with this other person and I don't know how to break up with him. And it's a lot. It's just like a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the loyalty factor. Being loyal to our trade partners, incredibly important, right? And so much of you being able to deliver the end result for clients comes from that relationship you have with your electrician or some of your, the drywall company, framers, sometimes even finishers that aren't in-house. The thing with the electrician side of things, I just had this conversation with another client here recently, did the exact same thing. Number one, I'm wondering why you shopped them around because you were onto it. Like, this just seems expensive. Is that what happened?
That has been a suspicion of ours for a while, but when we did try other electricians, we got burned. So we just sucked it up. And then the homeowner kind of pushed us. We have homeowners push us a lot on their electrical numbers. And so this one in particular asked me to shop a couple things. And I was like, usually I say no, but we haven't in a while. So I'll just do it. And so I was really sneaky and I looked at permits for really good builders in town and I could see who their electricians and their plumbers are. And that's who I called instead of just being a little more like willy-nilly about it. So I know he's a good electrician and he was like almost 60% of my electrician.
Yeah. So our trade partners are hopefully kind of growing their businesses as well. A lot of times we sometimes will find a trade partner that's kind of on the rise. Sounds familiar. It's kind of on the rise where it's like, they're still doing a lot of the work themselves. They might have a little bit of a helper. They haven't really figured out the business side to charge what they need to charge. Right. And it's like, man, this is so sweet. They're excellent and they're not that expensive. If it's 2016, 17, 18, and we have one of our trades that is increasing their pricing and going up, we look at that and we probably at that point would go, it is what it is. We're going to pay more, but we know the result we're getting and it's going to be fine. The problem here in the environment we're in right now is everything is so high. You are getting more of your prospects and your potential clients to say, oh, I love everything you're doing. I love everything you're saying. I want to work with you, but holy crap, this is expensive. And when we have trade partners that are going up and up and up in that, and everything is up, we have to be proactive. Even though we're loyal, we have to be a little bit proactive to figure out how to knock our prices down to be more palatable. That's the environment we're in right now. I would argue that we should, even though we're loyal, we need to be shopping around and getting more creative. Or can we figure out how to buy this more directly instead of this? We've got to be creative like that to try to be competitive. It's different now than it was. If one of your trades is up now, it's different than 8 years ago. That's kind of my argument that I've been making.
I want to hear what happened to Nancy.
So we had a electrician that we had used for quite a few years. I'm sorry if you can't hear me too well.
No, you're good.
We had used him for quite a few years. He was a single, sole proprietor, so he worked by himself. He was expensive, but we liked him. We enjoyed working with him. We had a personal relationship with him as well, but he was expensive and constantly complaining. Like just, and there was always, well, you didn't tell me about that. Well, you didn't tell me about that, which, we did, but, you probably missed it kind of thing. And so we were doing, it was right during the time of COVID, actually, or just before COVID, we had a couple of jobs that were starting at the same time. And our current electrician was working on the other one. So there was a guy that, my husband had met up with and he was interested in working for us. So, Mark said, come on in, we'll show you the job and, give us a price for it. So he came in and we already had, the other electrician's estimate. So he came in and he sat down and he looked at it and he's like, whoa, I would do it for a lot less. I'll take what he's charging you right now for this job, but I can guarantee you it's going to be about, 40 to 50% less than what he charges. And that was all she wrote. I mean, it was just one went out and it was hard because we, we're kind of personal friends with him too, but, we just couldn't help it. And we talked to him about it. We'd have him look at his prices and it just was what he was. And he's, complaining and he wouldn't be available because he'd be working on, some other larger projects and stuff. So,
so in that case, it was even more of a no-brainer because he wasn't just total rock star with everything.
Right. Yeah.
Laura, your guy, you rely on super well. The client I was talking to the other day, they're like, they're so reliable. They're so excellent at what they do.
Yeah.
And it's tough in Mecklenburg County. We have some of the toughest inspections and everything is so by the book and we never fail inspections, which keeps our timelines going. Like there's a million reasons we really like working with him. But like one of the things that really is starting to like irk me is that anytime he has to go back for something small, even if it's something that they didn't do right, he's charging us a trip charge. He's charging when I'm paying this guy like $25,000 to do electrical and you can't do me a solid and just like pop in one day, like that just feels like,
Yeah, exactly. And it was like every time, we'd send out everybody, the request for proposals and very, very detailed. He always had questions. It was just never straightforward. It was just always something to the point where it's just like, oh my God, I can't deal with it. So yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, Lori?
We're in a little conundrum because we're in so many project developments that he's already that we're going to be starting in the fall. So we're like, we don't want to just put all our eggs in one basket and go with this other guy before we even did a job with him. But I feel like in this fall, we'll probably phase him out, but I do feel like it's worth having a conversation. I don't want to not give him the opportunity to, do something different if he wanted to, but I don't know. It's really weird because he got really thirsty this week. All of a sudden they're calling like, do you need to schedule this? Should I go look at this shop? I'm like, oh, are you slowing down now because you're too expensive?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And if you were in their shoes, having a frank and honest discussion about it. And again, tying it in with, we're not just trying to save a buck. We're trying to sell projects in an environment that everything is up. And we've got to think through this and we've got to be wise with it. Because as much as we're loyal to our trade partners, which again, hear me loud and clear, that is a wonderful thing and a very important thing. We also have a business to run. We also have clients to take care of. And some of these things we're talking about 5, 6, 7 grand.
Oh, 10 grand.
10 grand.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy how different they were.
Yeah. Good. Sean wrote in there, I have 3 different plumbers currently. One is $3.25 an hour for 2 guys and only will work with a permit. He's great, shows up on time, does great work. Another one that will work without a permit, $125 an hour, but doesn't want our big jobs. And then the third that isn't as organized, but he's cheaper than both, does show up, and will do both permit and not. I think it's best to have a variety for different reasons and check on them. Yeah. So there's that. And then even just what I've always kind of said is, hey, it's wonderful that you have a great drywaller, plumber, electrician. Make sure you're only giving them 90% of your work. Make sure you have somebody waiting in the wings, because you never know. You don't want to have all of the eggs in one basket. But I don't say 50-50. Like, I see the value in having somebody that you use primarily, but we always want to have a backup for, we could all list 100 reasons why that makes sense. Yeah. So you're on the right path with it. Bummer though. What's something else that's on your minds? So Bailey, are we gonna do this again in like another 15 years? We got 15 years to prep for the 30-year birthday bash.
I mean, we'll definitely do it in 15 years, but I think we'll do it again before then for sure.
Maybe 20, maybe 25.
For sure, 20.
Okay. You still gonna be here?
It'll be bigger and better.
You still gonna be here for the 20th?
You tell me.
Oh, I'm just checking to make sure that you're feeling. We're just talked about trade partners, and yeah, loyalty's good, but whatever. If somebody else comes along, but yeah, you will. Because I think you really enjoy working here.
I do. I really like my job.
Yeah, I know. It's because I'm kind of obsessed with making sure that you're enjoying it.
It's true. Helps.
Yeah.
And because we get on these calls and people start heckling you and you just Venmo me money.
I did that before. It was, yeah, I gave a bonus tour for something, and then people were like, well, that $100 seems cheap. It should be 300. And then the next thing I know, spend more money. I think Jenna was part of that hostage negotiation. Sean just said creative ideas for finding employees or new trade partners. Lori just hit a pretty creative one for us, thinking new trade partner. People are pulling permits and kind of going through there. I think with the trade partner side, it is just network. Always have your head up, be looking for something. Lori said be a stalker with it. Trade partners, they're definitely out there, and your plumber knows them, or your electrician knows other ones. Your supply house person knows them. That colleague, that other builder. I just heard recently of, one of a builder kind of sharing with their home builder association colleague and being willing to share. I think sometimes we need only ask. So on the trade partner front, I think that's a little more straightforward. Anybody do anything creative to find a employee in the last year or so? Anything that's worked for them related to that? One thing I would encourage it, Chris is here. I see Jason here too. When we did you can find the recording and post it in there, Bailey. We did a recording on their, what's it called? Sorry.
UBE.
Sorry, I've been doing
Ultimate
this.
building experience.
Sorry, I've been doing this
UBE.
I've been doing this for 3 hours and 43 minutes with no breaks. So I'm winding down here.
It must be that water you're drinking.
Yeah. UBE, the UBE. And one of the things that I would encourage you to watch that UBE, there's a lot that Jason and Chris and the team is doing related to that. But part of my takeaway from that was the best stinking recruiting tool is making it a place that your current employees talk to people about. I love working here. They treat me well. We've got this UBE thing. We're doing this. I feel acknowledged. I feel like reward. I feel like I'm growing in my career. I think that's kind of a bigger picture of how do we recruit. Jen, I feel like you guys found in the last year or so through the local, whether it's a high school program or whatnot, you guys had like a contract signing where you brought on, he was apprenticing and then he kind of became an employee for you guys. I thought that was pretty creative.
Yeah, I just sent a message. He was in a local high school shop program and the shop teacher reached out, like trying to see if we would take an intern for the summer. We hired him for the summer. At the end of the summer, we offered him a position once he graduated high school. We did like a signing with him, like they do with
for sports
athletes. Yeah. But we also get some leads from our trade partners. So like we have I don't even know if you can hear me anymore. Our shower door supplier has, funneled some leads from us of guys they know that.
Is that the baby in the background? We can't, it's not picking it up, but I thought maybe you could go grab the baby and show her to us.
She's with my mom today at her house. She's sick, so. But our trade suppliers our trade partners have also kind of funneled leads to us, and they kind of will not qualify them, but like, well, are you willing to do this or that? They need some, so they're kind of like pre-interviewing them before they even send them our way, which can be
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah, a little longer term play, right? A little longer term approach, but a really good one. Excellent, excellent. Rhonda said I've been finding some through Facebook groups and next door, as well as talk to all my current subs and see who they know. Absolutely. Jake said, love the shop program, talking to high schoolers. A lot of young adults are looking for ways to start the workforce without college debt. Absolutely. Well, we got 10 minutes left because we're wrapping up 5 minutes before the hour, because everybody would love those minutes back. See, they would.
Can I ask a quick question off that?
Yes, please.
What are people's onboarding processes like?
For new employees?
New employees, yes.
Hmm. And why do you ask that question, Mr. I just signed on with a company and
Yeah.
they're onboarding you?
So I did work for Pepsi for 4 years, worked in a few different buildings. We had a lot of employee turnover. A lot of managers had really good onboarding programs, some of them not so much. And thought that was something very interesting that I learned there, that when we put in some good time with that, it definitely paid out on the other end.
Hmm. And what were a couple of the best practices? Like what did you see in the ones that were onboarding well?
You got to have a program, something to follow, a little step-by-step for them, keep it very regimented, and actually follow up on it was the big one. Definitely be hands-on. Some of the ones that weren't so good was kind of just throw them out into the fire and, sink or swim.
Chat every so often. I think what you just shared, and also what Vicky was sharing earlier, of kind of having clear expectations. I think whether it's a lead carpenter or a project manager or an office manager or designer, the idea of having kind of a clear, here's what the first 30 days looks like. And part of the onboarding is going into your calendar and actually scheduling a meeting for day 30, day 60, day 90, where we're actually paying attention to how are we doing with our 30-day goals. I think a lot of times it's realizing I have to invest the time these first few weeks and the first few months. And it's time very, very well spent, because if I skip over that, they're not going to feel as strong about things. They're not going to feel as valued, as appreciated. Anybody else have any best practices when it comes to onboarding or something they've done? Those were a few good ideas.
I was just going to chime in when you onboarded me back in the day. We set up immediately like 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, 9 month, 12-month reviews. And I think that was just really good to have that on the calendar right away and set that expectation so that we both could feel good about things and have time to check in. And that was not unexpected, but like a anticipated part of the onboarding process.
Yeah. Versus I've been here for 2 months. We haven't even really talked about how I'm doing or what progress I'm making.
Well, right. And I panicked before everyone, thinking I was going to be fired, but here I am years later. It's all good. Just because
I vaguely remember that.
But I think it was good to know the things we were going to go over and get really clear on what the expectations were and weren't.
Yep. No diggity. No doubt. Cool. What else we got? What else we got going, folks? What else is on the minds? Other stories, other things you've worked on? Ways you celebrate a birthday bash?
I just want to say thanks, Kyle. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
You changed our whole business and it's awesome.
You guys did rock. You guys did implement quite a bit last year.
It's a lot.
Yeah. How's the new and I would say, you've got a new office and stuff. I see, like, I'm looking over both of your shoulders at that wall. That wall's like blank. Have you even like moved in? Do you have any like authentic old maps you can hang up, or like?
We have a few things we hung up, but it was a short lease. It was only like 9 to 12 months because they're going to tear this building down. And so we're probably going to not have, I don't know, we're trying to figure it out because we haven't used the office for anything more than being very happy that we have some place to go work every day, but we don't it's not changing like how we do business.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So we're going to go after the 12 months.
We're looking at like office sharing or maybe just work from home. I don't know. It's been a busy summer. So like we weren't dying to come to the office every day. So we kind of talked ourselves out of it. And now we're coming back again and we're like, oh God, we like coming to the office. So, but it was a good experiment. And I'm glad we didn't have to sign like a 3-year commercial lease or something like that. So it was nice, but we might have budget to come back to VIP.
Darn right.
Do.
Darn right.
Yeah.
VIP 2024.
Yeah.
I'm calling an audible. We're going right around the horn. Thank you for sharing that, Lori. Susie, what's your kind of final takeaway? So listen carefully, people, even some of you don't have your video on. We're going to go around the horn because there's, just 19, although one person just checked out because they're like, he ain't calling on me. There's only 19 of us, so we can just go around the horn. A takeaway from something that you heard today, or something you heard recently, or something you're going to be implementing, or something you learned from me was fine too. Or like Lori said, you're just life changing. You changed our business. You can share that too. Susie, what was your takeaway from today, other than winning that $100? When was the last time you won 100 buckaroonies?
They won the coffee mug.
Oh, coffee. Oh, sorry. Just coffee mug.
But I'll use that. I drink a lot of coffee during.
Good. And what was the takeaway or final comment?
I think part of it is you just have to, as your business changes and evolves, you always have to be implementing new things. I mean, once you think you have something down, things change, the economy changes, situation changes, the size of your team changes. So you're always having to be proactive in reviewing your processes and stuff to stay on top of the game.
Love it. Jenna, what's your final comment?
I don't know if I have a takeaway, but it was nice to see some of the VIP people from last year.
Yes.
Like the
some familiar faces.
Yeah.
Yes. Nancy, you're the next one on my screen. You have to unmute yourself though.
Stay positive.
Stay positive. I like it. Emily.
You mute. We're in the same room, so it's
I know
hard to-
you guys have been figuring out though.
I think this wasn't a takeaway from today, but I was just thinking about something that stood out to me when we were a part of the group, is the personality, what is it called? The
DISC.
The personality test that we did.
Yeah.
And how you can really just use that to your advantage so much. And I think that with the three of, it's just the three of us, but one of the big ahas that we had, I think after you, is just how our personalities, how we act differently at meetings, and how to use that to our advantage. And it's really worked for us. And even though Lori and Jack are cult leaders, because that
was their personality type.
Said about them. I don't know. It's just we really appreciate each other a lot and respect how we work. And that's what's made us.
I didn't call you guys cult leaders.
Tony positively.
Tony
and
Woodall
I also
called
wanted
you.
to say that Jenna has the just cutest baby. I see all these beautiful pictures of her, and she not smile? She smiles all the time. I've never seen a picture of her not smiling.
Does she never? Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that.
Baby love.
And we miss you.
Yes.
I'll attest that she doesn't always smile.
Oh, Grandpa says, yeah. Rhonda, you're next on the little screen there. Any final comment for you? So that's what I'm doing, rolling through everybody. Time. Linda, you've been hanging in there, Linda, for quite a while now. Any comment that you have? Final word? See, now people are realizing if I don't unmute, he's just going to skip over me because Linda and Rhonda. Sarah, do you have a final comment? It's my birthday. I'm telling you guys to talk. You have to talk. Oh, they're being naughty. Chris, you're next, and then Jason's next. Chris, do you have a takeaway or final comment here?
I would have to say your hidden talent. That was a great takeaway from today.
You were impressed by that?
I was impressed. Yeah, my hidden talent is I can rap Vanilla Ice. That's about it.
Ooh, harkening back to the 90s.
That's right.
Okay. Cool. Jason, what you dialed in a little bit here. What's the takeaway that you have, sir?
Yeah, no, I think it was good to hear that the trend that other people's work and businesses taken and the way it's moving. And then to see the subs that are overcharging and kind of we get stuck in that. You get comfortable with who you work with, and the price just keeps going up and up, and then you're comfortable with working with them. And I think that all too often we don't continue to look for other options to maximize our profits.
Get a little complacent with it.
Yeah, I think that was good to hear that from other people, that we're not the only ones.
Yep. And Dylan, you don't want us to go through the rest of people. You want to use the remainder of the time to hear Vanilla Ice? The people have spoken. People have
Most
spoken,
definitely.
Chris. Chris, the people have spoken.
I need alcohol for that.
Okay. You haven't
I'll
participated.
do it when we're in person. I'll do it when we're in person.
Oh my. Okay. We've heard it. Cool. I think we'll start wrapping up. Thanks to everybody else who's commented too. Bailey, do you have any final thoughts? Thank you for organizing all of this.
Hustle. I think this is a testament to how much you've hustled and what an impact that can have, not just in your own business, but in other people's businesses.
Hustle and patience, right? Long-term reads. That's a very Gary V thing of like, hustle, micro speed, macro patience. It's a very good kind of business approach. Cool. Well, this was very fun. It was thank you, Jake, and thank you, Todd. It was very fun. We had some good training. We just had a little time to hang out and whatnot. And it was a very, very appreciative for everybody to take some time to dial in. Hopefully it was value add, plus some of you just dialed in to support me, and I really appreciate that. Here's to another 15 years. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking for another 15 years. Hopefully my voice holds up. We'll keep having fun. Cool. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you all later.